On that, I have to say, on the Harry story, it's across a lot of the papers this morning, and I know there will be people saying, oh, here we go again, Harry coming back to the UK, looks like his wife won't be with him. But do you know what? If it's a father and son relationship, if they can rebuild that a little bit, that's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? I mean, away from all the hoo-ha around it all, if they can do that on a personal level, that's got to be good.
And there's clearly still a lot of love there, especially from the King towards Harry. So I think if Harry can come and see his father, I thought it was really lovely after the King's cancer diagnosis, actually, that he flew as quickly as he did.
Yeah, but then he got criticised for not staying long enough. It's he can't do right for doing wrong. No. I do have some sympathy with him on that front. It's not to justify what I think has been some pretty bad behaviour, actually. But, you know, on a personal level, the King needs his children around him. Yeah, and it's nice if they can rekindle some sort of relationship. It is being reported, though, that Prince Harry's not going to meet Prince William, which is a real shame. That would be lovely, wouldn't it, to see the brothers be... It will be. There's too much damage there at the minute. I think that's going to take a little bit longer, isn't it? It is. And can I say, Pam Binder's been in touch. Honestly, on gbnews.com/yoursay, you don't mess about. You don't. Pam, because we've only been there for 2 minutes. No pink tie, she says. Stephen. No, but it's got pink spots on. I know, but they're not being picked up very well. Aren't they? No. Because I just thought the pink tie that I normally wear when you say wear pink, it's the same tie. I thought I can't keep wearing the same tie. I like what you've done today. So I thought this won't... Oh, there you go. Look, you see, so I am coordinating. Pam Binder. Yes, Pam. Eagle-eyed. We are still trying, aren't we? We are trying, but thanks, Pam, for tuning in this early on a Saturday morning. Yes, we appreciate it. And do get in touch on any of the stories that we're talking about today. We love to hear from you, don't we? It's gbnews.com/yoursay. Now, while the final election result for Friday has been declared... Well, it's all still going on, actually. Today is going to be another busy day. 7 mayoral contests. The results of those should be announced today. Well, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has said the Conservatives have everything to fight for as his party celebrate an unexpected win in Tees Valley. Despite that, the Conservatives predicted to lose as many as half of its councillors up for re-election once all the results have been declared. Well, joining us now is Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib. Good to see you this morning, Ben. What is your assessment of what we've seen so far?
Well, a lot of it was quite predictable, wasn't it? You know, Conservatives losing seats across the country, Labour picking up seats, Lib Dems, Greens picking up some council seats. But the by-election in Blackpool South being lost by the Conservatives, going to Labour. Turnouts down right across the country. I think that's one of the big stories, actually, which isn't spoken about perhaps as much as it should be. The electorate sitting on its hands, really not interested in coming out for either of what I call the two legacy parties. And, you know, the real challenge, I think, at the general election coming from here is getting people to come out and vote and getting them to believe that there is something for which to vote. And, you know, I hope Reform UK can get its message across in that respect. I know it wouldn't have made an absolute difference in Blackpool South, for example, because even if the Reform UK and Conservative votes were combined, Labour would still have won, but with a much smaller majority. However, it highlights the argument, doesn't it, that a vote for reform, you get a Labour government. Well, I mean, I've got so much to say about that, Stephen. First of all, you know, you have to vote for what you wish to have. And if you want another 14 years of awful Conservative government, by all means, vote Conservative. If you want the country's debt levels to go up, taxes to go up, private enterprise to be squashed, immigration to continue through the roof, the boats remain unstopped, borders unenforced, vote Conservative. And frankly, if that's your agenda, you can vote Labour as well, because both the parties do the same things. Labour will undoubtedly be worse than the Conservatives, but Reform UK exists because we recognise the country needs a complete change in direction from these two parties and from the agendas that they've delivered. So if people want to vote for a better UK, they've got to change the way they vote. Yeah, it's not about splitting the vote.
Forgive me, Ben, and that's all, you know, in terms of political messaging, that's absolutely fine. But the reality is you're not going to form the next government. I mean, your leader, Richard Tice, says the aim of Reform UK is to be the big opposition. So you're not going to change it anyway.
Well, we're very close to becoming the big opposition. Just one thing on that, Stephen, we've been around for 3 years. That's when Reform was set up 3 years ago. We've only really been active in the last year, and we're already polling just behind the Conservatives. So from a popular perspective, it's not inconceivable that Richard's right. We will overtake the Conservatives in the national polls, and that will make us the popular opposition, if not in Parliament. And Rome wasn't built in a day. This country is suffering in many, many respects. It needs a complete change of approach. And yes, we won't form the next government at this election, but we must not reward the Conservatives by putting them back in office after their awful 14 years. People have to come out. They've got to vote for what they believe in. And over time, we're already having, but we will have a very significant influence in the way this country is governed.
Are you happy to be the party of protest, though? Because what we may have seen in Blackpool South is protest votes taking place. People very upset at the Tories. We know the set of circumstances with Scott Benson there. Turnout was very low, 32.5%. So you may have done well in that by-election for those reasons. But do you think you could demonstrate the same sort of performance coming third in a general election?
I don't think we're the party for protest. And I don't think what you're seeing from the electorate is a general protest, other than a complete loss of confidence in the two legacy parties, which, as I said in my earlier comments, is exemplified by the low turnout. We are a party that's here to stay. We're not a pressure group for the Conservative Party. We're not a weather vane. We're not going to do any deals with the Conservative Party. We have our own agenda. And remember, we got 17% of the vote in Blackpool South. The Conservatives got only 170 votes more than we did. We were very close to putting them into third place. And as our recognition in the country grows and as our polling improves, I think you'll see a kind of potentiated effect. We've got two hurdles, folks, to get over, which the other two parties haven't. The first is people in the country haven't heard about us in the same way that they've heard about the Conservative and Labour Party, which are household names. We've got to become a household name. Then people need to understand what our agenda is and what our policies are. And that can only happen once they've heard of us. And then I hope actually what we will do is get people off their sofas and back in the polling booth, because we're giving them a genuine third option, not as a protest, We are here, and I'm in politics personally because I believe the country is in deep trouble and we need to save the United Kingdom. And the minute, by the way, I believe the UK is back on a proper path, I'd be very happy to bow out. I've got no desire to be in politics. It's merely because of what these two parties have been up to. And so it's not a protest. It's certainly no protest from me, and I don't think it's protest from the people of this country.
You've just upset Tommy McGuinness there, Ben, because he said he wants you to be Prime Minister. He's just messaged in this morning. Look, the problem with this is, in terms of Reform's performance, when you look at all the details, it would seem to be the only way you're going to get to where you want to be is to get rid of your current leader and install Nigel Farage.
Well, I completely disagree with that. Richard is a first-class leader. He's brought the party from polling 1% 3 years ago to polling 16, 17% yesterday in Blackpool South, on a regular, frequent basis. We're just behind the Tories. Nigel's a great guy. Nigel's got lots of public profile, fantastic speaker, people love him. But no sustainable political movement can be built around one individual. It has to come through solid leadership with a broad base and a deep backing. And what Richard is building, slowly and steadily, is a genuine party. We're not here for a flash in the pan moment. We are here to make a genuine impact into the medium and long term. And that has to be from breadth and depth. And Richard's building that. So I think Richard's absolutely first class as our leader.
OK, Ben Habib, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
I know he's very likely to be watching, is Richard Tice, because he does tune in a lot.
Do you think at this time?
He's probably yelling at me now. Sorry, Richard. It's a fair point, though. Everyone's saying Oh, Nigel, need to bring back Nigel. And he is very popular. I mean, I've said on this show many times, I mean, Richard Tice must be furious about that in a way. I know the two get on, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's a bit undermining, isn't it?
You can imagine, can't you? But for Reform to get to that 20%, which is what they'd need, that magic number, in order to get seats, would they need somebody like Nigel Farage? Don't you think?
Don't know. And then
Would he be the game changer?
And well, if you are a Reform supporter, I mean, this is what I don't quite get, is this... I mean, Ben Habib makes a very strong argument about, you know, what he wants and how he wants the country to be and all the rest of it. But ultimately, you are either going to get a Conservative or a Labour government. So... But maybe having your voice heard within a vote, even if it doesn't get you a seat or a government, obviously, is important. I don't know. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say, when will I get that right?
We will get there. Maybe in 2025.
Maybe. Who knows?
We'll get there. Now, the Maybank holiday weekend is upon us, but it does look like the weather didn't get the memo.
Or perhaps did.
Did it?
Because it's always bad on a bank holiday. All right, let's talk to meteorologist Jim Dale. Good morning, Jim. I cannot be surprised that it's horrible weather. Oh, it looks very overcast where you are.
Yeah, it is overcast. It's not too cold, actually, and that's the one thing. We've gone away from what we had a week or so ago, where it was absolutely freezing with the northerly winds. We've lost all of that. And actually, in between the showers, it's May showers, not April showers, but in between the showers, I think we can get on with it, if that makes sense. Yes, there will be downpours. I think Monday probably looks the worst. And by the way, some of these downpours will be thundery, will be heavy. So just watch your step, watch where you put yourself. If you see those clouds going up into the sky and delivering the big downpours, you don't want to be in an open spaces or on the ridges of hills or in places like that. But for the most part, it's a bit of a sort of dodging the bullets time. But I should say now, Stephen and Ellie, that the weather will pick up as we go through next week. So forget Monday for a second. Jump into Tuesday. Well, really just beyond there. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Excuse me. It looks pretty settled as high pressure comes in. So at least there's something at the end of the rainbow.
And then, Jim, does that mean summer is finally on its way? Because it hasn't felt anything like it so far.
Ellie, we're still in spring, so...
I know, but looking ahead,
with
Jim...
spring at the moment, yeah. It does actually. It will feel a lot more pleasant as we go through the week. And even if you get some sunshine today, you know, it'll be warm enough. You know, we will see. By the way, Oban yesterday, Oban in West Scotland, northwest Scotland, 24 degrees. Does that make you jealous?
Yes.
That's summer stuff. Out of the blue, that one. But, you know, that's the west of Scotland with all the hills and the foehn effect going across the hills. So, look, it happens from time to time. We probably will not see that this weekend now. That's gone. That's been and gone. But as the week unfolds, I think we will see some 22s, 23s, especially down in the south. So there's things to look forward to, but we've got to get through the weekend first.
Oh, it'd be good for the grain in Oban.
Yeah.
Whiskey. They do a beautiful single malt in Oban.
It's no good for us, though, is it?
No.
Jim, why has it been so wet so far? It has been a very, very wet spring.
Right, great question, Ellie. And look, it's part the synoptic situation, okay? Part, in other words, where the highs, where the lows end up, how we see the fronts coming across, and we get into a pattern, and breaking that pattern is sometimes very difficult. The other side of it, and I will mention it, is climatologists have said that with climate change, we see wetter winters, wetter early springs. And guess what? We've just had a wetter winter and a wetter early spring. So this is on the kind of climate change as well. So you've got to put the two together to get what you get. But hopefully we're through it and we see some better weather coming up. And yeah, we'll see now what the summer delivers in terms of heat waves and droughts. We will see.
Jim, good to see you this morning.
You're welcome.
I'm ending it there, since you said Ellie was a fabulous question. So that's upset me, Jim, frankly. I expected better from you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Jim.
There you go.
He can come back anytime.
Every time anyone says, you know, oh, that was a very good question, she turns, when we're not on camera, she turns and smiles at me. Got a good one there.
Yes, I do love it.
We sort of keep score, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yes, and I seem to be winning. Now, at 6:15 this morning, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom.
Well, patients have been warned not to attend hospitals in Bristol city centre after a critical incident was reported when a ceiling collapsed in A&E. At least 10 fire engines arrived at Bristol Royal Infirmary yesterday afternoon as patients were forced to leave the hospital after being plunged into darkness.
Barry Manilow has become the latest in a lineup of stars affected by the ongoing technical issues facing Manchester's new Co-op Live Arena. The venue, which will accommodate over 23,000 people as the UK's largest of its kind, has seen a host of stars cancel shows in recent days, including Take That, Olivia Rodrigo and comedian Peter Kay.
The Kremlin's accused David Cameron of a direct escalation of the war in Ukraine after the Foreign Secretary told President Zelensky that Ukraine could use British weapons to strike Russian targets. In a stark warning during a visit to Kyiv, Lord Cameron said they must defeat Russia or else Europe faces a very dangerous future. No, Barry Manilow is still performing.
Well, clearly he is.
Clearly he is.
Yes. Do you like Barry?
Well, I only really know Copacabana.
Yes. I think that's what most people know.
Yeah, but I mean, he's legendary.
Yeah.
How
old is he now?
Oh, he must be well in his 70s.
Barry Manilow.
But I always think it's amazing because
80. He looks good for 80, to be fair.
Well, I think there might have been a little bit of work.
A little bit of help along the way.
A little bit of help. But I always think it's amazing that him... And because megastar, along with Bette Midler, megastar, they started off sort of together and sort of in I don't quite know what they are, but the bathhouses, they call them in America, where he'd play the piano and she'd sing, and I mean, like nothing, penniless sort of thing, and then they've gone from that to absolute megastardom.
Can I say he's done quite a few more songs than
oh yeah, well, of course,
Copacabana. Yeah, Mandy.
Catalogue. Oh, Mandy.
That's a good one. Could it be Magic?
Was that one of his?
Magic?
I always think I'd take that with that. So you've got to be a certain age, haven't you?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Even I'm not old enough for that one.
But he won't be playing at the Co-op Live Arena in Manchester.
I want to know how much the Co-op is getting back in terms of money.
Because their name's everywhere, isn't it?
And it's I mean, they sponsor these things for good PR and pay out a lot of money. It's even got Co-op on the roof.
I mean, it looks good, to be fair.
It looks fantastic.
But, yeah, it's got the Co-ops emblazoned everywhere, isn't it?
It's been a really, really bad bit of PR for the Co-op.
No.
It's terrible. I hope they're getting millions back out of it, I do.
You wouldn't be best pleased, would you, if you sit on the PR board?
I think the boss has resigned, hasn't he?
Oh, Matthew
Swan said, did Stephen just diss the Manilow? No,
yes,
I think
he did.
No,
Matthew, that's exactly what just happened.
I think he's brilliant,
Yeah.
Barry Manilow.
Yeah, we just forgot some of his songs, but we're back in the room now.
Yeah.
But yes, if you're watching Barry, we're big fans. Now, rail passengers.
One song anyway, the only song we knew.
And Mandy's a good one.
And Mandy.
Yeah. Now, rail passengers face 8 days of disruption as long-planned engineering work by Network Rail over the bank holiday weekend merges into the next round of industrial action by train drivers.
Yes. Also for drivers this weekend, on the road that is, journeys on major routes are expected to take 13% longer than usual.
Well, joining us now is travel correspondent Simon Calder. Very good morning to you, Simon. Good to see you in the sunshine. Looks like it's going to be a headache for anyone trying to get out and about this bank holiday weekend.
It certainly is. Shall we start on the railways? I happen to be at Munich Hauptbahnhof, the main station in southern Germany. Everything, you'll be glad to know, working very well indeed. But I'm afraid that's absolutely not the picture in significant parts of the UK. In particular, it's, as you say, Ellie, the engineering work, that is going to be causing problems, particularly on various parts of the West Coast main line. That's the one which connects London Euston with the West Midlands, Northwest England, southern Scotland. And you'll find that today, Coventry is pretty much cut off from the rest of the world. The line is interrupted between Birmingham International and Rugby. Tomorrow, it's going to get significantly worse because London Euston to Milton Keynes is going to be closed. There's also work going on in the Crewe area around Liverpool, and also just on the other side of the country, Cambridge is having lots of work done. So wherever you're traveling, you need to find out how things are going. But yes, on Monday, the third summer of industrial action by train drivers belonging to the ASLEF union begins. We're going to see 6 days of an overtime ban. The way that the railways are organised means that there's going to be some quite substantial cancellations of trains. And then we're going to have 3 rolling strikes. Tuesday, it's mostly the London commuter services which are going to be hit. Wednesday, most intercity lines. And then Thursday, it's the north of England in the focus. Transpennine Express Northern won't be running any trains, and LNER will only have a skeleton service on its main route from Edinburgh via Newcastle and Yorkshire to London.
I mean, the reality of this, Simon, is it's not a shock anymore, is it? And I just want to, I mean, I'm not making any comment on what they're trying to achieve or what they want. You know, that's a separate issue. But is it a bit like turkeys voting for Christmas, these strikes? Because we just get so used to it happening. We're so used to saying, well, we won't even bother with the train because there's likely to be problems. So they're talking themselves out of a job in a way, aren't they?
That's what an awful lot of people are saying. And I thought you summed it up very well, Stephen, because I talked actually to Mick Whelan. He's the General Secretary of the ASLEF trade union. And he says, look, we've got a choice between doing nothing and just waiting for a change of government, literally, or doing something and reminding everybody that we're here. There is in the rail unions an assumption that the vast amounts of cash that the taxpayer pumps into keeping the railways going is just going to keep going, that the railways are too important to fail. I think that there is a bit of truth in that. Clearly, we depend on them. Clearly, the roads in the coming days are going to be even busier than normal because of the problems that you have with the railways, both strikes and engineering works. But ultimately, they are looking for a decent, no-strings pay increase. The government, which is going to sign off anything, says, well, you can have a modest increase, but you're only getting that if you agree radical changes to your terms and conditions. The two sides haven't met for over a year, although there was a bit of an olive branch late yesterday. The rail delivery group said, we're going to try and get involved in more talks, which would be quite something for us rail passengers who for the last 13 months have seen repeated strikes with nothing happening in the meantime.
Well, hopefully we're close to reaching a resolution. Simon Calder, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
It's like a quiz with Simon Calder, but we know he's popping up. I wonder where he is in the world.
Oh, he's always
this
somewhere
week.
fun. Yes, Munich today.
Munich. München.
Yes.
I'd like to have... I don't think I've ever been.
He's the hardest working man in broadcasting, I think, Simon Calder. He's always there. He always has his own phone and tripod set up, and he'll talk to you from anywhere.
Yeah, he will.
Literally anywhere.
I mean, we didn't even invite him on this morning. He just popped up, didn't he?
Oh, he's great. And you can ask him anything. He knows his stuff,
He does. He does. He knows everything.
That he does. Now, Prince Harry looks set to meet his father, King Charles, next week in London as the Duke of Sussex jets in to attend the Invictus Games' 10th anniversary.
Well, King Charles was recently cleared to resume public duties, of course, following that cancer treatment.
Well, joining us now is royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Very good to see you this morning, Richard. And what do you make of this news that Prince Harry is set to meet his father next week?
Well, I think this is what we were expecting because he made it clear. I mean, the moment he heard of his father's diagnosis of cancer, he came over pretty well immediately, and they had a meeting for what it was thought half an hour, 3/4 of an hour or thereabouts, and he returned almost immediately to the United States. But he did make it clear subsequently that he would be visiting his father again, and I think that we would have expected a meeting during the occasion of his visit for the 10th anniversary commemoration of the Invictus Games at St. Paul's Cathedral. I mean, also, undoubtedly, he will be pleased that King Charles has had such a good prognosis from his doctors, and also the fact that this week, we've seen him become a patron of Cancer Research UK and pay that visit with the Queen to the hospital. Then we've seen him see his coronation roll, and then he appeared at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, which, of course, was a great favourite of his mother's. Interestingly, he hadn't since 1979, so it does show he's out, about and pretty active.
I've just got to say, Richard, I know it's slightly off topic, but just as we were watching those clips, and if you're listening on the radio, it's just clips of Prince Charles of that first visit that he did on Tuesday. I was talking to this person here, and just as he stands up to leave, it's the way he grabs the hand and gives it a squeeze. I just thought that's so human, that's so personal, actually. A really lovely touch.
No, you're quite right, because there's no doubt. I mean, we saw him on Easter weekend, and that after the Easter service, that walkabout, very impromptu, and you could see the way he was loving to get back into some form of interaction with people. He's very, very good at it. And when he visited the hospital, I mean, the way he interacted with patients, the whole idea, he knows this is being filmed, of course, is to raise awareness of a dreadful, malign disease that affects the lives of so many millions of people. So it's not just the fact that it's a very, very memorable moment. It's also, there's a wider message here that he gets across to the nation and also the Commonwealth, and the wider world is watching too.
It is being reported in all of this that Prince Harry is not going to be meeting Prince William when he visits next week. Do you think that relationship is going to be a little bit more complicated to repair?
Well, I think it's much more complicated to repair. There's a very deep rift in the royal family. The way the Sussexes have behaved over the last 4 years is, frankly, the reason for it. Now, at this very, very sensitive time, obviously, serious illness it's a game changer. Gradually, slowly, all sorts of things will happen, we hope, privately, and this is an ideal opportunity for the rift gradually to be repaired. But this won't happen overnight, and obviously trust is the issue here, and the royal family, quite frankly, do not trust the Sussexes at the moment. But the King has always said that his door is open for Prince Harry, and this is what remains the case, obviously. And it is good news that the King is obviously so much better and is being allowed to do more, though, as we know, it will be very carefully monitored.
OK, Richard, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that. Philip Jackson has been in touch and telling me off, actually. And you're right, Philip. He said, Stephen, it's King Charles now, known formerly as Prince Charles. Quite right.
Did you call him Prince?
I probably called him Charles.
Oh, right, yeah.
So there you go, rather than... I know, but...
But we were talking about how warm he is.
But isn't it, in a way, and I totally get your point, actually. I hate it when people call the Princess of Wales Kate.
Yeah.
She never goes... They never call her Kate, do they? They always refer to her as Catherine. So I get your point, but I sort of think it's quite nice, in a way, that there is something a bit more personal. You would never have called Queen Elizabeth Elizabeth.
Oh, never.
But there's something a bit more personable about Charles, where you can just go, oh, Charles. You sort of feel like he'd be a nice person. I mean, the Queen, I'm sure, was a lovely person to meet, but it was a bit more sort of regal. But I get your point. I should just refer to him as the King. Yeah, there you go.
And on Barry Manilow, who we were talking about in terms of the Co-op Live Arena, he's the latest star to move his shows from that venue, which has been plagued with problems. Clark Milligan says, morning, you two. I've seen Bazza 3 times in the last 3 years at Westgate in Las Vegas. It's the best night out ever.
Oh, I bet it's a good show.
So he's still performing and doing a very good job by the sounds of things.
Yeah, he's a proper showman, isn't he?
That he is.
Like the old... And also, Terry Monk says, when did Jim Dale change from carry-on movies to become a weatherman? Very good point. I always mean to ask him that, and I've never got round to it.
We'll put it to him next time, shall we? We'll do keep those views coming in, gbnews.com/you'll say. Let's get the weather, shall we now, with Ada McGibbon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures as they rise could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with the best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast. And that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of Northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Oh, God, have you got a view?
Are we going to read the same one?
No.
Oh, this is lovely. Matthew Swan's been in touch saying, I must have some grit in my eyes this morning. Just seeing the coverage of the King chatting to cancer patients has made my eyes slightly moist. His mum would be so proud.
Yeah, well, Charles MacDonald says His Majesty puts others first, shaking hands and meeting people, not your usual royalty. I think he's actually I think he really outperformed himself on Tuesday. This is what he's been through, and it's all about others.
I think he's handled this whole cancer diagnosis with so much grace, hasn't he? I mean, even being so public, he didn't need to be. Being so public with his diagnosis, trying to raise awareness, even his first public event going to that cancer centre, I think was really
fantastic,
important, and he's done so much for other patients and raising awareness, so he should be applauded for that.
Quite right too. Our knighthoods are in the post. Now,
yes, that'd be good.
It would be nice, yeah. Now, summer is just around the corner, and we're going to make it sizzle for you with £20,000 in cash up for grabs in the latest Great British Giveaway.
Yes, it's our biggest cash prize to date, and it could all be yours. So here's how you could be a winner.
The next Great British Giveaway winner could be you, with a massive £20,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Imagine how you'd react getting that winning call from us.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox, and I won the Great British Giveaway. I'd say, why not? What is it? The price of a text and £2 to enter. And if I can win it, anybody can win it. And they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. Still to come, Aidan, what's coming up in the sport?
Yes, good morning to you both. Jurgen Klopp won't go quietly, will he? The Liverpool boss has called 12:30 kickoffs a crime against football. Meanwhile, down the road at Old Trafford, new owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe lays down the law to his new staff. Ipswich Town can seal promotions to the Premier League today, and there's the World Championship snooker semi-finals to look forward to. More after the break.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country.
That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people. To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Time for the sport this morning. Aidan is with us. Good morning.
Good morning to you both.
All right, let's have a look at Jurgen Klopp, who's very annoyed at these ridiculously early kickoffs, 12:30.
I wonder what time he has to get up in the morning for these kickoffs. What time do we get off?
About 11:45, I should imagine, for that.
Yeah, probably. No, it's not that bad. But listen, it's a free shot for him now, isn't it? He's got a few games left. He knows he's leaving the club. He's there out of the title race. They already won the Carabao Cup. They're out of the FA Cup. There's nothing left in the season, really, in terms of trophies. So he's using these press conferences to... And it's not entirely out of character. He does sound off now and again, but he's using them to kind of pontificate and to give his opinion on the game. And yesterday took aim at the schedulers, at the broadcasters. So he's talking about TNT, formerly known as BT. He's also issued criticism of Sky as well, even though these companies pay... I mean, the entire broadcast contract is worth about £8 billion over a number of over 3 or 4 years, I think, or 3 years, I think it is. But he's called it a crime against football, and he said that Liverpool have had more 12:30 kickoffs than anybody else, and it affects their ability to get results. Now, look, there is science behind this.
They should try a 3 o'clock alarm, Aidan.
Yeah, I know. Look,
then they'd know what early means.
Yeah, true. Mine was 3 o'clock this morning. I never don't get up at that time. No, you normally.
Why were you up
snooze.
so early?
I have to get in here. I have to work with you.
Oh, right. Sorry about that.
No, I know, sorry. But no, there is science behind this. You know, the evidence shows that the teams don't perform as well when they play at 12:30, especially when they've had European matches. But the quote was really interesting. I thought it was a little bit melodramatic. I'll read it to you. He said, I had a discussion the other day with my colleagues from my favourite TV channel, which I'll never watch again, TNT. They always say they pay you, they give money for football, i.e. that's what that's how they earn these fortunes in their wage packets. It's the other way around. Football pays them. They dare to give us Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, 12:30. It's a crime. I was waiting for Amnesty International to contact them.
Oh, get a...
Oh,
come
please.
on. Come on.
Please.
I know.
These footballers don't know they were born.
Yeah, I know. You say you were speaking to someone this week and you have knowledge of their schedule.
Apparently they train, I don't know if this is right or wrong, Aidan, but apparently they train between 10 and 12, and then they go to the spa, and then they have like an ice bath or something, and then they can't drink, so they just go to bed.
I don't think they go to bed right in the middle of the afternoon. But some of them do, actually.
But, you know, they have an early
some do. I spoke to a sleep expert a few years ago, and he said he did a sleep consultation in Spain with Real Madrid and Barcelona. He said, well, you do have to factor in the fact that a lot of these players do sleep in the afternoon, especially over there, because they have a siesta. But sleep is very important, and their bodies have to be managed. So there is a counter-argument to this as well, but it just seems as if the Liverpool manager knows he's on his way out. He actually said, take it as a little bit of advice from an old man who's on his way out.
I always have a siesta. Does that make me a sportsman or an athlete?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It
used to spend a lot of time at the gym. You know.
I used to. It was a long time. So those days are gone. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, not happy about the state of Old Trafford?
No, he's not. I mean, look, people have been saying for quite some time. I've not really noticed it when I've been to Old Trafford this season. To me, it's still the theatre of dreams, but it's a little bit tatty. But he carried out an audit of the club's facilities this week, and he issued an email, a personal email from himself to hundreds of staff. These are employees at Old Trafford and just off the M60 at the training ground at Carrington. And he basically said, look, it was a very warm welcome when I walked in to have a look around the place, to have a proper inspection. But he said the standards of cleanliness and the tidiness were, in his words, a disgrace. And he wants the highest standards for his organisation. He said that even at a petrochemicals company like Ineos, he said we would expect to have better standards than what I've seen when I've walked in. Now, the cynic in me would suggest that this is him. Yes, he's laying down standards, but he knows that when that email goes to hundreds of people, it's going to get leaked. It got leaked to The Athletic yesterday, got leaked to the Daily Mail, and maybe it's just telling the fans, you know what, actually this guy means business. We're all thinking, what's Ratcliffe going to do in terms of changing the manager? Is Eric Ten Hag going to stay? What about Marcus Rashford? What about the rest of the squad? What about the overhaul in the summer? What about the upgrades to the training ground and the stadium? But this is just a little marker from somebody who's very experienced in business, somebody who's a multi-billionaire, just laying down some standards basically and saying, look, if you're an elite organisation like Manchester United, we cannot expect to. Well, I'll read you the direct quote. He said, a club with no standards will not succeed. And look, he's probably got a point. There have been people saying for a long time that the standards aren't what they were. Cristiano Ronaldo gave an interview 18 months ago saying that when he left in 2009 to when he returned in 2021, he said that standards had declined rapidly. He said that the canteen was exactly the same, serving the same food as it was in 2009, and football has moved on.
Oh, it must have gone cold.
I'd have been proud of that gag.
Thank you.
That was quite good.
So it was.
I mean, honestly, footballers, it's a disgrace. The canteen hasn't changed its menu. What? No,
And they have to be at work for 12:30.
Come on, these people don't know they're born.
Oh, come on, they're only on £300 a week.
Oh, stop.
True.
Salt in the wound.
They struggle.
You know, when I covered QPR a few years ago, the players weren't happy with the food, and so they had a whip round to buy this protein powder.
Oh.
So yeah. I mean, it's something. I had a whip round. It was like, I think it was about £50 a week or something like that to get it in. Yeah, they weren't happy that the chef wasn't stocking it.
Protein.
Oh, right.
I know.
Yum.
Full of sugar as well.
Dust.
Premier League. Should we look at last night's action and a look ahead to
Yeah, why not?
well?
Yeah, Luton had a last little go at trying to survive last night. It's not over yet. They got a 1-1 draw against Everton. They're very competitive. They could have won it right at the end. Andros Townsend had a shot cleared off the line, but it looks as if now they're really up against it. Nottingham Forest play today. Now, the issue there is that Nottingham Forest could still have points deducted before the end of the season. It's a scandal, really, Stephen, that this hasn't been dealt with until the last couple of games of the season. Nottingham Forest could win this weekend and think they're home and hosed, or they might have a real advantage over their relegation rivals. We know Everton last night who played, they're already safe despite their travails. But then next week or the week after, Nottingham Forest could be hit with the points deduction, and that interferes with the entire table. This stuff has got to be done at a certain interval in the season, otherwise nobody knows where they stand. And there are hundreds of millions of pounds. I mean, the promotion to Luton last season was worth £250 million. They didn't spend it big on players because they thought, we'll take everything that comes with it. We're going to improve our stadium. They've been talking about building a new stadium there since the 1980s, and finally it gives them opportunity to get it done. So that's these aren't fine margins. This is a colossal amount of money that can affect the future of your football club over a 10-15 year period, and still the Premier League are taking their time issuing the sanctions. And I don't know what's taking the time, because they know what the crimes are, they know what the charges are, and Everton have been dealt with. Why can't Nottingham Forest? And so I can understand why supporters feel a bit peeved this morning.
Yeah, well, we won't hang about issuing your judgment on you, Aidan. You need to get out immediately.
Oh, no.
You can just go. But thank you very much.
You're going to invite me back, though, aren't you?
Yeah, you come back in an hour.
Thanks, Aidan. Thank you. Do stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers next with Winston Davies and Suzanne Evans.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country.
That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Right, have you finished? Are you
Yes,
ready?
I am
Right,
ready now.
OK. Let's go through the papers this morning with social campaigner Winston Davis and political commentator Suzanne Evans. Good to see you both
Yes,
this morning.
morning.
Suzanne, let's start with the front of the Guardian, should we, who are obviously delighted with their Tories crushed by worst election results headline.
To be fair, it's not just The Guardian. Most of the papers this morning are talking about how this is the worst local election results for the Conservatives in 40 years. And it's not what they didn't expect, is it? We knew they were going to get a trouncing, and certainly they are. When I last looked, just before I came on air, the Conservatives were down 448 council seats overall, whereas Labour were up 173. So clearly a very bad night for the Conservatives.
But within expectations.
Within expectations and some results. They obviously kept their Conservative Mayor, Ben Houchen. They've also won Solihull Council, so it's not a complete wipeout, but it's not good. However, I gather that what the papers are also saying this morning is there isn't going to be a leadership challenge to Rishi Sunak. That seems to be off. Clearly not an appetite for yet another party leader. But it certainly is a very dire warning for them, no doubt about it.
What I found...
And about to get worse, I think, because, of course, we haven't had all the results in yet.
Yes. No, that's true. And Ben Houchen may have thrown Rishi Sunak a lifeline. With that result yesterday. I found it really interesting, actually, in The Telegraph this morning, Rishi Sunak writing a piece essentially saying what these results show is actually voters are just very frustrated across the board, and actually we're the only party with a plan. Well, fighting talk.
It is fighting
with this set of results.
Yeah, to be fair, Labour hasn't had, I think, the kind of wipeout of the Conservative vote that they had hoped for. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Ellie. I think voters are completely depressed about both parties. I've said for a long time now that it's not that the Conservatives, the Labour are winning the kind of popular vote, it's the Conservatives are losing it. And the question is, where else do voters go? I think a lot of people feel that we've had enough of the Conservatives now. We've had them for 14 years. They've not done a good job. It's time for change. Any change will do.
Oh, well. Will do. Winston, what's the Mail saying about mortgage rates?
So mortgage rates are expected to go up past 6% this week. They've been increasing this year. Since January, they've gone up from 5.76% to 5.93%, which represents a £252 a year increase, basically down to the interest rate cuts which the Bank of England have been projecting to start cutting, not being now delayed until the end of the year.
Yeah, but we are. But I don't understand this.
No, I don't understand, because they are coming down, aren't they?
Base rates are coming down.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Personally, I think the Bank of England has handled the whole thing very, very badly, and that seems to be a view that's shared by the former Governor Mervyn King, who said in the House of Lords this week that the Bank of England was subject to groupthink, that nobody saw this inflation crisis coming, even though for most of us it was written on the wall. You know, you simply cannot pump that amount of money into the economy as we did to support people during COVID and not expect it to have some kind of comeback. Arguably, you could say that interest rates were too low for too long, so that led to huge amounts of credit in the country. I think they've handled it very badly. I think we're now really on the verge of the economy doing very badly unless they cut interest rates very quickly. But as Winston's just said, they're not really going to do it until the autumn.
Boom and bust, which we've had for donkey's years, boom and bust. Why does nobody ever learn?
They don't. I remember my history teacher, Mr. Purslow, saying the trouble with politicians, and perhaps you could argue economists as well, they never learn from history. And I think about Mr. Purslow a lot with that phrase, because I think he was absolutely right.
Winston is the bringer of more doom and gloom with the Sun.
Where are we now? Oh, fuel rises. OK, let's have a look. So fuel rises, they've risen by 2p.
I've noticed this at the pumps.
Yeah,
already.
so we've got diesel and petrol both gone up 2p, 149.9 pence and 157.7 pence respectively, due to the heightened tension in the Middle East and the weakening of the pound against the dollar. But the RSC, they've accused retailers of basically increasing the cost of fuel when there's a surge in oil prices, but not reducing it as quickly when there's a fall in it. And also calling on regulators to basically look at the postcode lottery on fuel, because they said at Asda there's a 36p difference between the highest fuel that they're charging and the lowest fuel. So that's an interesting bit.
I just think it's crazy that it fluctuates so much. I mean, I drive from one town to obviously to a city when I drive into work. The number of different prices you see goes from like 135 to 165.
If they can get away with it, they're going to do
it. But I mean, it's not only frustrating for most of us, but like if you're a small business owner,
100%.
I mean,
100%, and
really
it literally eats you. Yeah, exactly. Because obviously we drive around, have vans driving around all over the place, and fuel is a big part of that. I mean, I think there should be something in line where they say, look, if you're going to increase the price of fuel, you know, within 48 hours of an oil price increase, well, you're going to have to decrease it in the same amount of time, not let it lag a week or 2 weeks or not at all.
The government's response to this has been to set up to try and force people to advertise their prices. But there's been an app that's been doing that for ages that I've been using for years. Petrol prices. It's brilliant. My local petrol station is always the cheapest.
Is it?
You're very lucky.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. It's an independent petrol station. At the moment, it's 144.9,
that is good.
which is good. And I think if they can do it, why can't everybody else?
Yeah. The trouble is, I always say that I've had apps before. It shows you where the cheapest one is. The trouble is, you end up spending the difference driving to and from.
You might well do.
I drive out of my way for the cheapest petrol.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't actually help.
This is the problem. But then, I don't know, see, I've been looking at like an electric car for the work commute, plus a dog car, you know, one that isn't going to get...
Oh, must be nice to have two.
So having two is more expensive, though, than that extra petrol, isn't it?
Oh, no. Well, it wouldn't... No, I'd get rid of my current car.
Oh, I see. Right.
But then you're going to have to put a solar charger in your house, and then you're going to have to put solar on your roof to pay for the charging of the car.
It's just... Well, this is... But the cars themselves are so expensive.
Yeah, the cars are so expensive, then electricity costs.
And one second. I was at Luton Airport last week, and I was talking about a fire at their car park, which literally blew up one electric car to the next, to the next, to the next, and they've had to shut the whole car park.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% certain on the safety of them either.
Yeah.
It's the infrastructure as well, if you get an electric car. There's not enough charging points yet.
No, it's why I could only really use it for sort of to and from work.
You get to and from London, that's about it.
And then charge it at home.
Yes.
But I just like the idea of I'm fed up of filling up because I have to fill up twice a week.
And it's so expensive, isn't it? It's awful.
It makes me mad.
Suzanne, let's talk about Prince Harry to visit the King. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that's great. Father and son talking. What can be so wrong about that? It's quite interesting, actually. I've been looking into statistics because we're all... You know, this rift between Harry and Charles and William is so front and centre stage at the moment. But apparently this kind of family estrangement is really not rare at all. There's quite a lot of research suggesting that around about a quarter of families at any one time have some kind of active estrangement, which I think is really sad. So, you know, the royals are very, very different from us, but maybe in some ways they're not so different after all.
Well, the problem is they're having to do it all in a very bright spotlight.
It must be horrendous, actually. I do feel very sorry for them. I don't know, Harry, I think he's quite a sad character, really. I think he's made a very difficult bed for himself.
Yeah. I think it probably has, but what I don't get is when people say, well, of course, Harry hasn't called his father for 6 months or whatever.
Well, it's a two-way street.
How do you know?
Yes,
how do they know?
They don't, do they?
No.
Winston, what do you think?
Well, I think it's all speculation. I think, listen, the boy, when he was a boy, his mum was killed in tragic circumstances. He's been hounded by the press all of his life. He's had to live his life in the spotlight. I think just give the guy a break. Just let him live his life. And Suzanne was saying, oh, yeah, but he won't leave us alone early. We're talking.
No, he doesn't. You know, this, oh, we're going to retreat into the background, no publicity.
But but then there's there's a part of it of he's got money that he wants to earn, and through publicity and PR and all of that, I think there's a bit of it. He's playing a bit of it. He's trying. He's milking a bit of it. He's earning his money, but at the same time, it's like I think he's a very troubled man.
Oh yeah. All right, we've got to leave it there. Thank you both. We'll see you later on.
Let's get the weather now with Aidan McGibbon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures as they rise could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with the best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast. And that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of Northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest cash prize we've given away to date. An incredible £20,000 that you could use however you like. And because it's totally tax-free, every single penny will be in your bank account to do whatever you like with. £20,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours this summer. But you've got to be in it to win it. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Morning to you. 7 o'clock on Saturday, the 4th of May. Today, Rishi Sunak puts Tory rebels in their place as he declares his party has everything to fight for, as the nation awaits what some are warning could be shocking mayoral results.
Well, despite gaining 170 new council seats, Labour's stance on Gaza triggers a surprise defeat in Oldham. Could it be a warning to an election-ready Starmer?
King Charles's greatest wish could come true as Harry looks set to visit his father as soon as next week.
And despite it being May, the rain looks set to stay.
It's fair to say the weather this weekend will be very mixed, varying from place to place and from day to day. I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Talking just a minute ago about electric cars, because I quite fancy an electric car.
And a dog car.
Yeah, well, yes, also like one to put the dog in, because my nice car's getting trashed by the dog. John Andrews has been in touch. Morning, John. He's got an electric car, and people do moan about the range anxiety if you do a lot of miles. But he says he has to pull up and he's forever charging at service stations on the motorway and all that sort of thing. So having a bit of a whinge about it, and I understand that, John. But he also says it works out at costing him about £5 a week, the electric, so he's saving hundreds of pounds in fuel. See, that would be my thing.
Yeah. See, if the electric cars were a lot cheaper and you didn't actually have to do very much mileage, you're just kind of running to the shops and back.
Well, that's what I'm
It's
thinking
an
about
absolute
coming down to work and back. It's about 160, 170 miles a day.
But
so that's fine. That's all within range. Just charge it at night.
And could you play your radio and have the heating on?
I imagine it's got enough electricity in it for that.
Would it? Because I'd worry about things like that. So can I actually enjoy my experience?
Yeah.
Or would I have to stop and charge it?
Charge it so
I
you
think
put your...
it would be too stressful.
I don't know if it could still heat your curlers. You might have to unplug those from the cigarette lighter. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think the infrastructure's probably got a long way to go, electric cars, but do let us know if you've got one or if you're thinking about getting one. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Yeah. So I quite fancy one. I just fancy basically to save the money on petrol. Fed up paying for petrol.
Because it is very, very expensive, isn't it?
Now, today's going to be another busy one on the politics front. We've still got a number of councils yet to declare, so that count isn't over yet. We've also got mayoral election results on the way.
Yes, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has said the Conservatives have everything to fight for as his party celebrate an unexpected win in Tees Valley.
I don't know if it was... yeah. I mean, the thing is with Lord Houchin, who's the PCC, Police and Crime Commissioner in Tees Valley, he won he got 70% of the vote last time round. So it was going to be a heck of a job to overturn him. I know Labour threw everything at it, but even so, I mean, he'd be surprised if he hadn't have won, really. Anyway, despite all of that, the Conservatives are predicted to lose as many as half of their councillors once all the results are in.
Well, joining us now is the Minister of State for the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, Andrew Griffith. Good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just hearing there Rishi Sunak saying the Conservatives have everything to fight for. It's very brave talk from the Prime Minister, isn't it, considering this set of results?
Yeah, look, it's a difficult set of results. I think that was what was expected going in. As Stephen said, we're pleased that we did well in areas where actually Labour should have been doing better, like in Teesside, but also like in Harlow. A number of areas where Labour are in power, Wandsworth and Oxford, they're actually losing some seats. So, perhaps a bit more mixed, but difficult for many colleagues up and down the country. And no one should be celebrating anyone who's ending up with a Labour council. It's going to cost them a bit more. It does frame the choice at the election, I think, really well, really clearly now, which is you see where Reform stand, all they do is help Labour to get in. And that we've got a clear set of plans. We need to use the next few months to clearly articulate that point. There's going to be a very simple choice at the next election. Who walks through number 10 Downing Street? Is it Rishi Sunak with his plan that's starting to work now? Or is it Keir with no plan, or where they do have plans that don't really go with the grain of what the British people want? French-style industrial policy and an amnesty for those who've come here illegally.
This is the problem, though, with the greatest of respect. I mean, the Prime Minister's fighting line is, well, we have a plan. The issue is, after 14 years in government, people don't want you to have a plan, don't they? They want you to have a strategy which is already implemented.
I think that's perfectly understandable after 14 years, but in particular after the last few very difficult years where the British people have made sacrifices during COVID. We're still going through the costs of Ukraine. It's a very difficult geopolitical situation. But in that circumstance, you don't just want to throw things out and project onto an opposition that's untried and untested. You know, all of these things that you think might be the case, that the reality is, if you look at just what we've been doing over the last few weeks, welfare reform, a significant increase in our defence budget, and of course the plan on Rwanda that Labour blocked and delayed for so long, you know, that's very clear what the plan that you get with Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives. In each of those cases, it's really not clear what Labour would do. That's a very, very clear choice for people at the next election. And just because you've stuck with a brand and a company or a party for 14 years doesn't automatically mean you should throw it away, go for something untried, untested. A Prime Minister whose previous claim to fame before he was the leader of the opposition himself was that he tried to put Jeremy Corbyn in number 10.
I wanted to ask you about Lord Ben Houchen, who won the mayoral race in Tees Valley. The Prime Minister clinging on to that as a sign of success in these local and mayoral elections. That has thrown a political lifeline to Rishi Sunak. The papers are saying this morning that for now, no talk of a new leader is now in place. But do you think that Houchen is actually proud to be a Conservative? Because in his speech yesterday, he spoke about his community, he spoke about being proud to be re-elected, but he didn't mention the Conservatives or Rishi Sunak. And in fact, he says he forgot to wear his blue rosette.
I saw quite a lot of the coverage, and in fairness, you know, Ben's been always very clear. He's probably one of the most famous Conservatives in the North, certainly in his area. I don't think anyone's under any ambiguity that Ben's a Conservative. He's clearly done a great job delivering for local people. But the areas he represents are exactly the sort of areas that if Labour were to be seeking to win an election, they'd have to win those areas. Keir Starmer visited, Rachel Reeves visited, Angela Rayner visited. It was very, very clear that they were targeting Teesside. It contains five constituencies that they need to win. The same is true of Harlow and other areas across the country. So, look, I mean, we shouldn't take solace from the fact that Labour didn't do perhaps as well as they would have hoped. The reality is we lost some good Conservative councillors, colleagues and police commissioners. But our job of work over the next few months is just laying out very clearly the choice the country is going to face at that general election. Go forward, party with a plan, or you know, have Keir Starmer walk through the gates of number 10 at the most difficult geopolitical time, huge uncertainty in the world, as well as the fact the economy is now starting to pull away and recover after the difficulties of the last few years.
What about some brutal honesty? And look, and I've been in this business a long time. I know it's difficult. I know you've got to pull the party line. You've got to say certain things. The problem is we're becoming much more sophisticated as an audience now, and people look at politicians and say, "Well, I know they're not being dead honest with me." The reality here is, isn't it, that you've got to do everything you can to mitigate losses at the next election. Isn't isn't that what you really need to be concentrating on now, rather than sort of propagating the myth that actually the Tories could form the next government?
Stephen, I completely disagree with that, actually, with the greatest respect. You've got a lot more experience. I came to this world after a very long career in business. But actually, we've only seen the indicated preference of about a third of people, right? The turnout in Blackpool South, the turnout in most of these local mayoral elections, only about a third of people voted. And you wouldn't read third of a book and say, I know what the ending of that story is, or watch the first 30 minutes of a football match. So I genuinely believe there's everything to play for. A lot of people have felt frustrated over the last few years. As a Conservative myself, you know, we've not had, because of the cost of the interventions to protect people during COVID, then the cost of energy increasing as a result of Russia's war in Ukraine. We've not had the headroom or the economic space to do some of the things that Conservatives like me believe in, which is let people keep more of their own money, reduce the burden of tax, reform welfare so we can put that money to good use on things like defence. So, you know, I'm not giving you a line, Stephen. I think, honestly, you know, we've got about a third of people voted in these sort of elections. Turnout at a general election when people face that much more binary choice about who they're going to wake up the following morning walking through the doors of Number 10 is a very different proposition.
Look, wanted to ask you about the role of reform in all of this and what a game changer they have been in the past few years, and especially now in this election year. In
Blackpool South.
Blackpool South, thank you. Yesterday, what we saw was Reform coming third place behind the Tories by just 100 votes in it. You must be very threatened by the Reform Party.
Well, I think it's very, very clear that where Reform stand, where people vote for Reform, they get more Labour politicians. And in a democracy, if that's what people want, then no one would take away that choice. But we should be very clear about what the outcome is going to be. A vote for Reform increases the odds of a Labour government that's likely to put up your taxes, isn't going to support pensioners in the way that this government hasn't committed to the triple lock, is going to put huge costs on people because of their desire to rush ahead into net zero and impose costs on people, including, you know, the cars that you were talking about before I came on air. All of those things are made more likely if people vote for Reform. So, you know, that's a choice people will have to make. But it's very clear what the consequences are that you get.
And look, that's actually a very difficult point to argue against in terms of how our democracy works. But doesn't it send a clear message to the Conservatives that these, and the vast majority, sort of former Conservative voters, if you like, that they're not happy with the direction the party has taken?
You shouldn't be in a democracy if you're not listening to the voters, and the Conservatives, you know, have to earn and fight for every vote. I think that from the people I talk to, and as a member of Parliament, you know, you talk to people all the time, and some of them say, look, we're voting Reform for these reasons. And it is typically a frustration about the ability of this country to control its own borders. Now, we've passed that plan. There will be people going on planes to Rwanda as part of the really important job of making our country safe, controlling our borders, and being able to give a fair deal for the people that are here, are trying to find jobs or housing and those things, public services. So I think if we can show those sort of voters that we are on their side, and that notwithstanding the frustrations of the past few years, many of which have been caused by the very difficult geopolitical situation, that improving spending on defence, getting back control of our borders, reducing the burden of tax on people, those are things that, by and large, and I shouldn't, you know, oversimplify all of the different things that Reform voters feel, but if we can deliver on those plans, I think we've got every chance of reminding them and having that conversation that a vote for Reform is just helping Sir Keir Starmer.
OK, Minister, really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Not at all. Good morning. Nice to be with you.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, joining us now is political commentator Peter Spencer. Good to see you this morning, Peter. And what did you make of what Andrew Griffith had to say there?
Well, to tell you the truth, I felt as if I was on the deck of the Titanic, listening to those musicians tinkling away with jolly little songs. Everything's going to be fine. it manifestly is not going to be fine. The Tories have had a result which the top polling guru, Professor Curtis, described as little short of catastrophic. And I think that immediately calls into question, will there be a plot to oust Rishi Sunak? Now, if you ask me, the idea of putting in yet another leader at this stage would actually make the charge of the Light Brigade seem like a pretty good idea. But that doesn't mean to say they're not actually actively thinking about it. And I mean, it is certain that there are all manner of conversations going on at this moment. And indeed, one rather dispirited minister said a couple of days ago, "Look, I'd like to hope that the response to bad results will be calm and measured. But have you met my colleagues?"
What do you make of what Andrew Griffith was saying? And I wonder if he's got a point when he says, yes, it's bad results for the Conservatives. Within expectations, though, I mean, that sort of 500 seat loss was sort of what we were being briefed about. Labour hasn't done quite as well as they might have been hoping for.
No, I think that is certainly the case. I mean, there are widespread predictions that they will be the largest party after the general election, but they won't have an overall majority. That said, it's worth bearing in mind a couple of factors in all this. One is the fact there was no voting in Scotland, and it's worth casting our minds back to the fact that 9 years ago, up until 9 years ago, Scotland was Labour bedrock, and then the Nationalists trounced them totally, and they lost 40 of their 41 seats. Well, look at the political situation in Scotland, where first of all we lost a first minister, then we lost another one, then there's this scandal over the party's finances, and indeed, as a result of that, Labour is now actually in front of the of the Scottish National Party. Now, just there's a whole chunk of votes to be had there, a whole chunk of seats to be had there. That's one point. And second point is that there are a fair number of early results came in which suggested that Labour was winning even in areas that were very much for leaving the European Union. Now, we consider the 45 constituents is in the so-called Red Wall, which again used to be bedrock Labour and then swung over to the Tories. Will a fair slice of them come back? So I suspect that projections that the Labour Party is not going to be the overall majority, not going to have an overall majority, may be a little bit wide of the mark.
OK, Peter, really good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed. Interesting points coming through on the messaging. Stuart Santry, morning, Stuart, says, because we keep saying, of course, all these people voting for reform, you're polling well, 17% in Blackpool and others. And everyone says if you get to 20, they might be able to squeeze a parliamentary seat somewhere. Which is why, all these figures are why Nigel Farage, Richard Tice want, what do you call it, the voting system.
Not first past the post.
Not first past the post. Oh,
the other one.
My brain's frozen now. But, the one where it's proportional representation.
That's it, proportional representation, yes.
There you go. It's why they want that, because obviously those votes would be counted and represented in a different way. Stuart Santry says, if there are enough of us who are fed up with the performance of the government and dread a Labour government, if we all vote for reform, we'll get a reform government. Well, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right, you would. So you have to then ask the question, are there enough people who support what reform stand for to do that? And at the minute, there isn't. That's the sort of bottom line, isn't it? It's not to say it's not a strong force in politics. And I certainly think...
Disruptive force, yeah.
Well, disruptive, and it's certainly got the power, as we saw with Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party and UKIP and all that. They can direct the movement of the government. But will you do enough people support reform to get enough reform MPs? Doesn't look like at the moment. But who knows? They are putting someone up in every seat, so we're told.
Yeah, and if Nigel Farage comes into the fold, could that be a game changer? Could that be what gets reformed to 20%?
I wonder what Richard Tice makes of that.
I know. That's our question we'd like to put to him, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I bet it annoys him. Sorry if you're watching. Do let us know, Richard, if you're watching. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Now, it's 19 minutes past 7. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
And patients have been warned not to attend hospitals in Bristol city centre after a critical incident was reported when a ceiling collapsed in A&E, causing a power outage. At least 10 fire engines arrived at Bristol Royal Infirmary yesterday afternoon as patients were forced to evacuate the hospital after being plunged into darkness.
Barry Manilow has become the latest in a lineup of stars affected by the ongoing issues facing Manchester's new Co-op Live Arena. The venue, which will accommodate 23,000 people, largest in the UK, has seen a host of stars cancel shows, including Take That, Olivia Rodrigo, I don't know who that is, I've got to be honest, and comedian Peter Kay.
She's a pop sensation.
Is she?
That's what they'd say. And the Kremlin has accused Lord David Cameron of a direct escalation of the war in Ukraine after the Foreign Secretary told President Zelensky of Ukraine that the country could use British weapons to strike Russian targets. In his starkest warning yet, during a visit to Kyiv, Lord Cameron said Kyiv must defeat Russia or else Europe faces a very dangerous future.
Yeah, I was... this is a sign of getting old.
What?
It's a sign of getting old. Don't know who Olivia Rodrigo is. And also, there was when I was driving down to work the other day, it was top story on the radio, was about a concert with a rapper had been cancelled about 10 minutes before it was due to start, and all these very, very disappointed fans outside the Co-op Arena being sent home and
Yeah.
I was thinking, they didn't say who the rapper was. And apparently they were a Boogie Wit Dat Hoodie.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that rapper.
I'm not familiar with that.
Are you familiar with that rapper?
No, I'm not.
See, we did that story a couple of days ago.
I have heard of Take That.
And we just called them the US rapper, probably the best. Yes, we've heard of Take That, and I know who Olivia Rodrigo is.
A Boogie Wit Da Hoodie. A Boogie Wit Da Hoodie.
If you're a fan, let us know. I've never heard of them.
No. Is it tragic that often if I want to listen to music now in the car, I put Radio 3 on?
Oh. Or GB News Radio, I'm sure.
No, that's if I want information.
Oh, I see.
But, you know, sometimes you just think, I just need a bit of soothing music.
Well, Taylor Swift's new album, as you know, I recommend, so you can listen to that.
You are. You're getting into that
on the
now.
way home. Yeah, I am getting into that now,
It's a grower.
Yeah, I'm seeing her next. Yeah, it is. I'm seeing her next month, you know.
Are you?
Coming around very quickly.
There you go. Very, very excited. All right, let's see if you get excited about the weather today. Here's Aidan.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures, as they rise, could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast. And that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's time for the latest Great British giveaway and your chance to win the biggest cash prize of the year so far, a whopping £20,000.
Imagine what you could do with all of that. Quite a lot. Here's how you could make it all yours.
It's the biggest cash prize we've given away to date. An incredible £20,000 that you could use however you like. And because it's totally tax-free, every single penny will be in your bank account to do whatever you like with. £20,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours this summer. But you've got to be in it to win it. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We have had a few people messaging in saying the pile of money we show in that is about £500,000 in £50 notes. It's a representation.
Yeah.
It's a hollow box of money we're showing you there.
Perhaps just paper underneath it.
I don't think it's real money.
No.
Can you imagine?
Unfortunately not. But the £20,000 is up for grabs.
Not in this place, where everyone here would be piling into wherever it was filmed to grab it.
I'd be in there first, elbows at the ready.
Gotta pay for a wedding.
I know. Stressful. But anyway, best of luck in that giveaway. Now, still to come, Prince Harry is expected to reunite with King Charles next week in London. We're talking about that next.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Today is a good day for the King, a good day for Britain. I'm sure you'll be hoping that those Not My King morons decide to give it a rest for a little while, because he is still dealing with an illness, isn't he?
He's still dealing with an illness, and he appears to be dealing extremely well. I think he comes from the fact that he's extremely strong and fit. I think I understand that will help his treatment enormously. And I think, as your professor was saying, it's the fatigue that can be a brutal thing when you're trying to lead a normal life with cancer. But I think that it's going to really help him psychologically to get out there, and people are going to be giving him enormous support. I mean, I know, as you say, there's an anti-monarchy brigade, but there's been an anti-monarchy brigade since there's been a monarchy. So that is not such a big deal. It has always been there. I feel that Charles is going to get a lot of support from the sort of joyousness of people seeing him and, you know, wishing him well. And I think that that's going to be immensely important to him. It's a very busy time, but I think a boost for William and Kate. William's out and about. We don't know about Kate, but I feel that the King will definitely. It's a very busy time coming up with the anniversary of D-Day in Normandy, which I know he will be desperate to be a part of. Then there's the big royal season, the trooping the colour, the Garter ceremony, royal ascot, and then he is hosting the Emperor and Empress of Japan at the end of June. So it's a absolutely packed month for someone that is presumably going to get very tired.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if he gets through all of that, I think that will be absolutely massive, won't it?
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the
People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to breakfast. Now, Prince Harry looks set to meet his father, King Charles, next week in London as the Duke of Sussex jets in to attend the Invictus Games' 10th anniversary.
Well, King Charles, of course, recently cleared to resume his public duties following his cancer treatment.
Well, joining us now is former royal correspondent Michael Cole. Really good to see you this morning, Michael. What do you make of this news?
Good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Steve. Well, just as I predicted on this very channel, the King will almost certainly see his younger son when he's in London next week. The King has made it clear from the outset that his door is already always open to his younger son, who he tends to call my darling boy. And on Wednesday, the King will be at a garden party at Buckingham Palace, and Prince Harry is here principally for a Thanksgiving service to celebrate the 10th anniversary of his brilliant innovation, the Invictus Games. That will be at St Paul's Cathedral. So usually they're 5,000 miles apart. Now they'll only be 2 miles apart. And I'm quite sure that they will get together. And at that, there we see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at Whistler in Canada when they were announcing the foundation of Winter Games for the Invictus for the wounded and damaged ex-servicemen and women from 22 different nations. A brilliant initiative and the sort of thing that, of course, he was so good at and should be doing more of. That, of course, was all pre-Meghan, the foundation of the Invictus Games. One thing I think, Ellie and Stephen, we can say that won't happen is that Prince Harry will not be meeting with his older brother William. That's going to take a lot of reconciliation, and Prince Harry is going to have to mend a few fences. I would say enough fences to encircle the whole 20,000 acres of the Sandringham estate. A lot of humble pie has got to be eaten too. I should think Meghan in her kitchen in Montecito will have to bake up a humble pie about as tall as a Californian redwood and then eat it. There's going to be a long, long road before the two brothers are on speaking terms, let alone friends again. But wasn't it great to see the King looking so well yesterday at the Royal Windsor Horse Show? He didn't used to go in the Queen's time. It was very much her thing. The show was established during the Second World War by Guards officers who were convalescing from war wounds at Windsor, and they started it mainly to amuse Princess Elizabeth, as she then was, and her sister, Princess Margaret. And they took part in that show, driving a pony and trap and so on. And over the years it grew. I must just tell you a little anecdote, which I've never told before, which shows how far we've come. One time I had to attend the show almost every year. And one year I was invited with my wife to a marquee where the Queen was giving a reception after the show. And we'd only just stepped inside the marquee when a woman came in and she said, "Can I stand here? Would it be all right if I stood with you? Are you okay? Can I stand here?" And she was utterly shaking. And it was Mrs. Parker Bowles. And it was the first time ever she'd been in a room or a space where the Queen was. And she said, "Will she come over here? Will she come over to see us?" And I said, "I'm not going over there. And if you stay here, I'm sure she won't come over here." And that was the very first time. It was the introduction of Mrs. Parker Bowles into the royal presence. And that was 11 years before Prince Charles, as he then was, married Mrs. Parker Bowles at Windsor in 2005. So that shows how far we've come. Now she's very much the help and stay and very much a great comfort to her husband, who looked so happy yesterday, and it was great to see.
That it was. And Michael, whilst we've got you, just wanted to ask you about the King's visit to the Cancer Centre. I believe it was on Tuesday. We were quite struck, really, by his warmth towards the patients there and holding their hands, and just a real sign of quite how human he is.
I think it was terrific. I think the pictures were extremely moving. I mean, those two there have got something in common. And Another thing which I think is important, the King has his treatment alone, of course, with the best specialists. I'm not quite sure where it happens, at a hospital somewhere or in a consulting room. These guys all have their treatment together, and they have a community, and they bake cakes for each other, and they talk to each other. And suddenly the King, and I think you can see it going through his mind there, is realizing that this is what's happening all the time, and they're suffering in exactly the same way as he is, because it's a very traumatic thing, having this treatment as it's ongoing. And as you say, Ellie, it was really, really wonderful pictures. And he's done a terrific amount by being candid about his condition. It's made people check themselves. It's made people contribute to charities. It's made people think about this very much more. You know, when I was a kid, people didn't dare to say the word cancer. It was like a taboo in case you actually got it yourself. And there we see him with the Queen, who's also taking a very brilliant part in all of this. So, you know, from what could be a catastrophe, good comes, and people with great courage and bravery and commitment face up to it. And apparently, I'm told 1 in 3 of us at some stage in our lives will encounter cancer. It's a terrible statistic, but the King is showing really what he's doing is showing leadership, and that's what only he can do. There's only one head of state, and we're lucky enough to have him, King Charles III.
Yes, no, quite agree. Quite agree, Michael. In fact, I think that figure's 1 in 2 now, actually.
Is it really?
It's 50% of us, yeah.
Oh, it's shocking.
Which is, it is appalling, isn't it? Michael, really good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Now, do stay with us because we'll be going through the sport with Aidan. What's coming up?
Well, a very good morning to you all. Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool boss, won't go quietly. He's called 12:30 kickoffs a crime against football. Down the road at Old Trafford, meanwhile, new owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe lays down the law to his new staff. Ipswich Town can seal promotions to the Premier League today, and there's the World Championship snooker semi-finals to look forward to. More later.
I'm Gloria Di Piero. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The biggest of occasions for England's smallest county. In Rutland, there isn't a single statue. Now there shall be, of one of the most important people in British history, the late Queen. Lord Lieutenant Sarah Furness represents the monarch in the county.
Her Majesty provided us all with a sense of stability and continuity. As head of state, she gave us national identity.
Raising £140,000 in donations, mostly from individuals, the statue in the town of Oakham is the first of its kind to be unveiled since the death of Queen Elizabeth. Howell Prattley is the sculptor.
I am a big fan of public sculpture, being integral to, a friendly, caring community.
Young and old are lining the streets to catch a glimpse of the 7-foot statue, including 89-year-old Joyce Lucas in the front row.
We met her on several occasions in Oakham, and we've got some lovely photographs and lovely, lovely memories. She is the Queen. She was great. She was brilliant, and we miss her.
The Queen's death broke the nation's heart. Her memorial is filling Rutlands with pride. Her image, taken from early Middle Age, set in bronze.
It's a real fitting tribute to the late Queen.
I think it captures our late Majesty's humanity, but also she looks so regal.
Absolutely beautiful.
Queen Elizabeth was Britain's longest reigning monarch. Her reign was great, unlikely to be matched by future king or queen. A legacy of unwavering service recorded in a place of permanent remembrance. Will Hollis, GB News in Oakham.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, Aidan McGee is with us for all the sport this morning, and complaints already. Complaints already, this time from Jurgen Klopp.
What are you talking about against me?
No. As if he'd be up this early.
I know.
To what he's moaning
Look,
about.
I want you to steady on, because I know you're going to be gushing with sympathy for Jurgen Klopp and with Liverpool. But look, it's easy to describe really what he's going through. I think that he's realised that there's nothing in this season now for Liverpool. They're going to finish in the Champions League, but they're out of the title race. They won the Carabao Cup. They're out of the FA Cup. They lost to Manchester United in the quarter-finals. They're out of Europe, of course, because they lost to Atalanta. Now, it's almost open season for Jurgen Klopp. They're normally quite considered in their press conferences, these managers, because the scrutiny is so high around the world, especially in the social media era. But he's taken aim at the TV companies. The TV companies who, I might add, pay his very significant wages, as they do for all footballers. This includes BT, who are now known as TNT, and Sky, and overseas broadcasters, etc. And he said that Liverpool have had more 12:30 kickoffs than anybody else. And he said that this impacts performance, it impacts the health of the players. I thought that the quotes were a little bit melodramatic. I'll read them to you. He said, I had a discussion the other day with my colleagues from my favourite TV channel, which I'll never watch again, TNT. And he said, they dare to give you Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, 12:30. It's a crime. And that's why the Daily Star have gone with the headline, Crime Time TV. And he said, I was waiting for Amnesty International to go to them. And he's saying to them, look, don't make this imposition on the players. If he hadn't said that,
he could have got away with it.
Yes, possibly. But then he goes on to say, and he's quite a little bit more kind of, stepping back from the situation, adding a bit of wisdom to the whole debate. And he said, this is just a little bit of advice from an old man on the way out. I mean, he's not even 60 yet, so I don't think that's considerably old. However, he's very passionate about these kick-off times. He thinks that it's an imposition on players. There is science that backs it up. The lesser the preparation time for players, the more susceptible they are to injuries. They often wear a vest now in training and in matches where it tells you, it can tell the physios and the sports science team whether in the red zone, if they're more likely to get injuries. They're more likely to be in that red zone if they don't have the preparation. So there is a bit of science behind it. He believes that. I mean, I said at the top of the hour, or at the top of this piece, didn't I? I said that it's about the money they get. They get huge amounts of money. The deal is worth a total of £8 billion over a number of seasons. But Jurgen Klopp said, look, it's a partnership. They get plenty of money out of this. It's not like TNT and Sky are not faring very well. We're all doing well out of it, but it has to be a partnership. They can't just be the squeezer. That's his word. So, all right, you can joke about the sympathy to the players and everything. We can joke about the schedule, but I do believe there's a little bit of science backing this up as well.
Should we talk about Man U?
Yes, new boss went in there, a few months ago now when the takeover was ratified, Ratcliffe's takeover ratified.
Oh, Ratcliffified, you should have said.
Yeah, I know. I didn't have enough time to work on it, unfortunately, but I was up too early.
Yeah.
So he's gone into Manchester United. He's doing an audit of all the facilities. That involves taking a tour of Old Trafford. Old Trafford's been criticised in recent times. It was this stellar domestic or international even, or certainly European venue for football over a number of years. It's still the biggest, with the exception of Wembley, but lots of criticism that it's been falling apart. He went to the training ground, which was, again, a state-of-the-art facility in the area of Alex Ferguson. And Alex Ferguson, it comes back to him again. He left 11 years ago. I remember going there. He used to walk around that place. He used to strike fear into everybody in that building. Not always, not so they couldn't do their work or anything, but just it made you realise that standards had to be upheld.
Yeah.
Ratcliffe has gone in there this week, and he has sent an email to hundreds of staff, and I think that he knows that it was going to be leaked to the media, and he's criticised the untidiness of the place. He said that there are low standards all over. I wouldn't even expect these standards or these low standards at a petrochemicals firm where you would expect some waste to be lying around. And he's laid down a marker. He's basically said to the staff, many of whom I think might go in the summer because they're looking to cut back, And I think that he's laying down and saying, look, things are going to change around here in future. I wouldn't have put all these billions of pounds into this club unless things are going to switch.
Yeah,
and the chemical company analogy was very interesting because he should get a reaction, shouldn't he?
Oh, give over. Give over. Let's talk about the snooker, should we, and Kieran Wilson.
Yes, that's right. So, look, the semi-finals are going on now. It's not great for snooker that they have these players who are relatively unknown. We've seen John Higgins eliminated. We've seen Judd Trump, a former champion, another former champion, eliminated. The stellar name, of course, in snooker, Ronnie O'Sullivan, out of it as well. But in terms of the semi-finals, they're ongoing at the minute. Kieran Wilson, 14-10 up against David Gilbert. Stuart Bingham is drawing 8-8 with Jack Jones. And I was thinking, if Stuart Bingham's on the table for a long period of time, then his opponent's on his Jack Jones in the corner, isn't he?
Oh, goodness.
You've been working on that one for
I have,
too
yeah,
long,
I'm sorry.
Get out.
I am. I'm on my way, all right.
Yeah. So we'll see you in an hour.
Thanks, Aidan. Now, do stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers next with Winston Davis and Suzanne Evans.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Many of the people that you had invited to come and speak were people who've been elected in their own countries. I'm thinking of people like Suella Braverman. I'm thinking of Nigel Farage, who has been a member of the European Parliament, of course, had an enormous impact on British politics. And Viktor Orban, who has been elected and re-elected. Many people may not care for the Prime Minister of Hungary, but he's certainly an elected person.
And in addition, we had about 15 to 16 members of the European Parliament who were also elected, and they really live in Brussels. And you would imagine that Brussels, being the head of the capital of the EU, would allow elected members of its own parliament to have an opportunity to voice their views. So I think what was very interesting about this is that the mayors overplayed their hands, so that because they overplayed their hands, all public opinion became entirely on our side. It was so evident, so transparent, that this was really an attempt to use the police instead of arguments to react to our conference, that it was a real direct threat, and it is still a direct threat to the freedom of assembly and to free speech.
So how do you think it leaves it? Is it more likely or less likely that there'll be future bans?
I think this was a trial run. What I'm really worried about is that if the future of democracy and free speech depends on the ruling of one judge, and you have to remember that 3 other judges ruled against us, then democracy is in big trouble. What worries me absolutely is that a strong body of political opinion amongst established politicians believes that it is okay to cancel conferences and to crush the people's opinions and prevent the freedom of assembly. Democracy actually depends on these foundational values.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages this morning. And The Guardian leads with what looks like the Conservatives' worst election results in decades, they say.
The Independent has Rishi Sunak's agonising wait to find out who is going to be the next mayor of the West Midlands. It's not even mentioned London.
No. The Mirror celebrates a potential reunion between King Charles and Prince Harry as soon as next week.
Telegraph quoting the PM as he defiantly says his party have everything to fight for.
And The Express leads with Rishi Sunak seeing off threats to oust him after securing key Tory successes in the local elections.
All right, let's talk to social campaigner Winston Davis and political commentator Suzanne Evans. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Morning.
Telegraph, Winston, this blood scandal. I mean, I can't believe it's been going on for so many decades.
Decades. So this started in the late 80s. Thousands of people were who were haemophiliacs, were infected with infected blood that was bought from the US, and that blood was blood that came from gay men, drug addicts, and sex workers. And then from that, people have then got HIV, hepatitis C, and Baroness Campbell of Surbiton, her husband, her late husband, he died as a result of it. He was 1987, he got the blood and treatment for haemophilia, and he was then diagnosed with HIV. After getting married, within 6 months of being married, he was told he's going to die, and 6 years later, he succumbed to it. And what she's campaigning for is saying that the surviving victims of this should be getting their payouts sooner than the people that have actually passed away, and it's just dragging their heels on it. Yeah.
So many people have died already, haven't they? It is a national scandal. I feel like it's not in the public consciousness as much as perhaps the post office scandal.
Yes, well, it's interesting you mentioned the post office scandal because I'm thinking here, so basically the government's been ordered to pay compensation but hasn't done so. So it obviously does need to get a move on. But I do wonder, why is the government having to pay compensation and not the company in the US that supplied this contaminated blood? Very similar to the post office scandal. You know, the government's paying out compensation, but why not Fujitsu?
Well, they're trying to claim it back from Fujitsu, aren't they?
They are, and I think it should be the same in this case myself.
Yes, no, I think that's a very valid point.
Yeah, they probably are. The NHS are probably going to go back, or the government going to go back to the US company to try and claim the money back. But actually, it's the NHS who have provided the blood, and it's the government that's going to have to carry that fall.
Can we have a look at Donald Trump's spending plans for defence, Suzanne? This is on the Telegraph as well, actually, this morning.
Yes.
If he wins in November, he wants to force NATO members to spend more.
I think that's right. He wants to force NATO members to increase defence spending to 3% of GDP if he wins a second term in the White House, which is looking rather likely. And I think, in principle, this is a good proposal. I don't feel myself that the world's been a more dangerous place than it was since I was a teenager, when you had the threat of the Cold War and Russia pushing the nuclear button. And it almost feels like we're back there again. You know, you've got so many global conflicts now, major global conflicts. Obviously, got smaller ones as well, regional conflicts. But we've got China agitating, we've got Russia, appalling tragedies happening on a daily basis in the Middle East. And I think there's never perhaps been a time when defence spending needs to be taken more seriously.
No,
really.
well, do you know what? In principle, it's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely,
but
I think so.
It's the reality of it. You're saying to countries that are really underspending, like, I don't know, is France, is Germany doing quite bad?
I think very few countries in Europe actually are spending the 2.5%.
And sort of saying, well, how do you force people to make those sort of economic choices?
Well, you can't.
It's going to affect all of their policies, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't. But what is interesting is that since Trump's first term in the White House, many countries did actually meet their NATO spending targets for the first time. So whether you like him or loathe him, the fact is he has already shown his influence on this matter and may very well continue to do so if he gets the opportunity.
Simply because he says we'll pull out of NATO if you don't.
He does, but,
It's
you know, sometimes you need a bit of stick as well as carrot, don't you? I mean, as I say, not everybody likes Trump, but I think in terms of actually, there was never a war with America while he was in office. You know, everyone said, oh, Trump's terrible, there's going to be wars. Actually, he did the exact opposite. And he did it partly, in a sense, by pushing people's, not the big red buttons, but pushing people's buttons and saying, look, guys, you need to deal with this. You need to up the stakes here. And whether you might not like his methods, the fact is he got results.
OK, let's have a look, Winston, shall we, at Guardian, page 12. This is a hero sword fan thanking the NHS for saving his life.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, sweet innocent 14-year-old boy was killed on the streets of East London, and just before he was killed, this guy Henry Polaniana, he's 35 years old, was stabbed in his house and had lacerations to his hand, and he's thanked the emergency services and the NHS for coming to help and for his, to support him. But I've got a little bit of a challenge with this story, because it's like he says, hero sword victim, attack victim thanks NHS, and it's right, he is a hero, he saved his family, he's fought off this killer. But we've seen last couple of days some other headlines which refer to the boy as Sword Lad.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There was a tiny little section on the left-hand side of the Sun which said family pays tribute to Sword Lad. Tiny little bit. And on the front and centre was a story which has no relevance. And it's like, hang on a minute, this is I've got a 14-year-old boy, I've got a 14-year-old nephew, and to refer to him as Sword Lad as if he could have been the one carrying the sword, it's disgraceful.
It is disgraceful.
And it's like, who is the person that's looking at these who can write these headlines? It's disgusting.
Yeah, that is disgusting. Honestly, it's... No, I hadn't seen that, I have to say.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of time for this hour. Winston
are,
Davis and Susan Evans, thank you very much indeed. Should we have a little look at the weather now?
Well, I think we probably should, because it's a bank holiday, which means it's going to be grim. 'Twas ever thus.
And raining.
Yeah, here's Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures as they rise could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with the best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast. And that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of Northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The next Great British Giveaway winner could be you, with a massive £20,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Imagine how you'd react getting that winning call from us.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox and I won the Great British Giveaway. I'd say why not? What is it? The price of a text and £2 to enter. And if I can win it, anybody can win it. And they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Leading motoring organisation has called for all new drivers to be banned from giving lifts to friends for 6 whole months after passing their tests.
Yes, the AA says around 5,000 people every year are killed and seriously injured in crashes involving at least one young motorist. Graduated driving licences introduced with limitations imposed on a period of time after a driver passes their test. So a two-tier system.
Well, is this sensible or yet more ageism when it comes to regulating our habits in the United Kingdom? Let's speak to Quentin Wilson, a motoring journalist and transport campaigner. Really interested to get your thoughts on this, Quentin. There are a lot of people who instinctively will say this is state overreach. This is telling adults that they can't do something that they've done for generations. What's your view?
Well, look, the recent accident with the convertible Mini where people were twerking in the back, this is due to driver education. The person in control of that car really should have told the passengers just to buckle up and stay still. We're not teaching kids to drive properly. We expect them to do all this stuff below the dashboard, grinding of gears, hazard perception, positioning of car, in this very, very small time window, when we should be doing it from school age, teaching hazard perception. So I've been a patron of an organisation called Young Driver, who's delivered 1.4 million lessons to 11 to 17-year-olds on private land with ADI qualified instructors with dual controls. And the accident rate for that group is 4%. The national average is 20%. So look, we can do this, we can reduce these fatalities if we teach kids earlier about road safety.
Is this an issue, frankly, with teenage boys and showing off?
The testosterone does always seem to come through, doesn't it?
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on Saturday, the 4th of May. Today, Rishi Sunak puts Tory rebels in their place as he declares his party has everything to fight for, as the nation waits for what some are warning could be shocking mayoral results.
Despite gaining 170 new council seats, Labour's stance on Gaza triggers a surprise defeat in Oldham. Could it be a warning to an election-ready Starmer?
King Charles's wish comes true as it looks like Harry's going to visit his dad next week.
And despite it being May, the rain looks set to stay.
It's fair to say the weather this weekend will be very mixed, varying from place to place and from day to day. I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Heck, views coming through thick and fast this morning.
Got one on petrol prices.
Oh, go
we were
on.
talking about that in the papers a little bit earlier on. Talking about the postcode lottery of petrol prices. Leslie Cooper's been in touch saying, morning, Stephen and Ellie. I live in the UAE, where petrol prices cost the same at every petrol station, which the price is adjusted monthly in accordance with market fluctuations. Love, Leslie.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to go.
Well, I think there should be... Well, I suppose if there's uniformity, though, then that takes away competition, which obviously, you know, it's
healthy competition is no bad thing.
But there should be a... I don't know how you deal with it, but the fact that the prices are so varied, you just feel like you're being conned by half of them. David Cunningham says all countries in NATO should be paying 2% of their GDP for defence. Many do not do this. Trump is correct. There's a lot that don't do it.
No.
It's just, I don't know how you force people to, because it's, you know, I mean, look at us, we're upping it to 2.5% in the next, how many years?
At the end of the decade.
End of the decade.
2030, yeah.
Which is, so it's taking us another 6 years to up it to 2.5%. So you can't just demand
Yeah, it seems to be a big ask, doesn't it?
But I do still think everyone should pay their way.
Yes. And lots of people getting in touch wishing us a happy Star Wars Day.
Oh, yes, may the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you if you are one that celebrates, which I assume you are.
No, I never pay much attention to it, to be fair.
Do you not? That actually surprises me. You love Star Wars.
I do like Star Wars.
No, you like Star Trek.
I like anything with stars in it and spaceships, basically.
Don't we know?
But I don't get, you know, I don't go around saying, may the 4th be with you to
that's
people.
a relief.
Because I'm not that much of a geek.
In public.
In public. There you go. Right, now it's going to be a busy day, actually, on the politics front, because although you thought it was all over yesterday, it wasn't. We've still got councils to declare. Plus, we've got mayoral election results coming through today as well.
Yes, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said the Conservatives have everything to fight for as his party celebrate a win in Tees Valley.
Well, despite that, the Conservatives are predicted, once all the final count's in, to have lost as many as half of their councillors. So we should get that final figure either later on this afternoon, perhaps tomorrow morning.
Well, joining us now is the former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Very good to see you this morning, Andy. Very interesting, you might have just heard there, Rishi Sunak saying that the Conservatives have got everything to fight for. He seems to be pinning all of his hopes on Ben Houchen and the results that we saw yesterday in Tees Valley.
Hi, Ellie. Hello, Stephen. Yeah, he did. Rishi Sunak said they're everything to fight for. No, I'm afraid that they don't. I think that the result in the Tees Valley is the only glimmer of hope they have, but it's really a false one. Ben Houchen won that election because he's Ben Houchen and people are pleased with what he's done, not because he's a Tory. So they won in the Tees Valley in spite of him being a Tory, rather than because of him being a Tory. So I think yesterday was a really bleak day for the Tories. The opinion polls look right. And it's curtains for them all, I'm afraid, at the end of the year when we have our election.
What is going wrong, do you think? What's your assessment?
I think the biggest single factor is time. They've been in power a long time. People don't feel that their lives are better. They feel pessimistic about the future. You know, in politics, people want hope. They want to believe that even if it's tough, that the future will be better. And nobody feels that way. Whether it's the NHS or the potholes in the roads or tax, everybody is down and thinks it's going to get worse. So the numbers, time is up for the Tories. I'm very confident. I put a bet on a year ago that Labour would win. And I'm really hopeful that I'll get my payout. So I think things look bleak. The mayoral elections are really interesting because these roles are massive. You know, if you live in the West Midlands or in the Tees Valley, your regional mayor, Andy Street or Ben Houchen, is as famous as the Prime Minister and more famous than the cabinet members. It's a really important symbolic role. Regional mayors are usually re-elected, so it's not a surprise in some ways that they are being re-elected, but these guys are getting in spite of them being Tories rather than because they're Tories. So the hope that Rishi Sunak is spreading about these two glimmers of light, it's false, I'm afraid, and the numbers, the game's up.
It's really interesting that you say that about the mayoral races, because we've heard this, haven't we, from mayors saying that this is a lot about the personal vote. It's about their personalities. It's about their names that people know and come to respect and come to like. But we were talking yesterday, weren't we, about actually, is this country heading more towards a presidential system where you're looking at the leaders of the parties, you're looking at Sir Keir Starmer, you're looking at Rishi Sunak, and people care less and less about the local election vote, and all they care about really is who's going to get the keys to number 10?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think presidential-style politics is coming. I think the regional mayors, in a strange way, although they're local, are actually helping that. They become big figures, a bit like governors in the USA, where they're looking after a state, and they're seen as a kind of presidential figure. But it's about the qualities, the integrity, the energy of the person involved in politics now. And people are still voting largely along party lines, but the influence of political parties is diminishing all the time. And you need someone who is got that star factor, got the energy, got the drive, and they win confidence, whether it's Trump in the States or people here. I'm not endorsing Donald Trump, by the way, but I am saying that it's the character of the person that's becoming increasingly important.
When it comes to things like regional mayors and perhaps even more importantly, police and crime commissioners, do we think we should take it out of the political sphere in a way? I mean, when you were mayor, you stood as an independent. Is that actually an important way forward so people can actually process what needs to be done on the local level without it becoming this party political battle?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I think that being independent gives you certain strengths. I think that's really good. Being independent also gives you some vulnerability. You don't have a team, you don't have a support network, and you can't withstand attacks from political parties. I think that increasingly local politics should be less about national issues. And we've seen that, though, haven't we, with Andy Street in the West Midlands, Andy Burnham for Labour in Manchester, and Ben Houchen for the Tories in Tees Valley. We've seen that local politicians, they might belong to a national party, but they're really only talking about the local issues, championing local people and local issues. So I think we're moving away from a national picture, which is healthy, is good. Sadly, I don't think we'll see many independent politicians for the foreseeable future.
But we are waiting on a number of mayoral results today. We should hear them by the end of today. What are your predictions, if you have any?
So what I said was a while ago that Labour would probably take North Yorkshire, which they did. I was confident that Andy Street would lose. But it seems that actually the Muslim vote in the West Midlands, with a protest against the Gaza situation, is backing an alternative candidate, fracturing the Labour vote. So Andy Street's going to get in my opinion, there by the skin of his teeth, in spite of being a Tory, not because he's a Tory. And Ben Houchen was re-elected because he has a strong personal brand, but also Labour ran a really bad campaign. What Labour did locally was they picked a candidate who was old school, old style, and they really tried to fight it on national issues. They tried to present a national picture, and the people in Teesside weren't interested. They wanted a local person that would fight for them and talk about local issues with local passion. So that corroborates what we were saying earlier about the importance of the local issue and the decreasing relevance of national issues when it comes to these quasi-governors, the Metro Mayors. So I think Labour are going to do really well. Metro Mayors, by the way, they're almost always re-elected. They're popular figures. They're seen as Father Christmas figures. They don't raise taxes by and large, and they just hand out money for big landmark projects. So the people see them as quasi-messiah figures who have the solutions to problems and fund amazing things. So they're always very popular.
OK, look, really good to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed. And of course, amidst all this, we've got London Mayor, which is a sort of separately important job because it's seen. I mean, it's odd, isn't it? And often, I mean, Sadiq Khan and the Labour Party don't always see eye to eye. Certainly do. Heck, certainly do when Jeremy Corbyn was in. That's an odd role. Now, of course, for that, it was all the money was on Sadiq Khan. But Susan Hall has fought for the Conservatives on anti-ULEZ, basically.
Very anti-Khan, yes.
So would that...
And her odds have come right down.
Well, I mean, only a couple of days ago, the Tories were sort of saying, oh, we might just have nudged it over the line with this one. Everyone's rowing back a little bit now. But it will be interesting to see. I think it might be might be tight.
It's a two-horse race, that's for sure, isn't it? And it could be a very close one. We'll have all those results for you across the day on GB News, so do stay with us.
Now, rail passengers face days of disruption again because there are going to be engineering works and industrial action getting underway.
Yes, but that's not all. Traffic jams clogging up our motorways. Millions of drivers face bank holiday delays.
Well, earlier we spoke to travel guru Simon Calder.
Like it's going to be a headache for anyone trying to get out and about this bank holiday weekend.
It certainly is. Shall we start on the railways? I happen to be at Munich Hauptbahnhof, the main station in southern Germany. Everything, you'll be glad to know, working very well indeed. But I'm afraid that's absolutely not the picture in significant parts of the UK. In particular, it's, as you say, Ellie, the engineering work that is going to be causing problems, particularly on various parts of the West Coast main line. That's the one which connects London Euston with the West Midlands, Northwest England, southern Scotland. And you'll find that today, Coventry is pretty much cut off from the rest of the world. The line is interrupted between Birmingham International and Rugby. Tomorrow, it's going to get significantly worse because London Euston to Milton Keynes is going to be closed. There's also work going on in the Crewe area around Liverpool, and also just on the other side of the country, Cambridge is having lots of work done. So wherever you're travelling, you need to find out how things are going. But yes, on Monday, the third summer of industrial action by train drivers belonging to the ASLEF union begins. We're going to see 6 days of an overtime ban. The way that the railways are organised means that there's going to be some quite substantial cancellations of trains. And then we're going to have 3 rolling strikes. Tuesday, it's mostly the London commuter services which are going to be hit. Wednesday, most intercity lines. And then Thursday, it's the north of England in the focus. Transpennine Express Northern won't be running any trains, and LNER will only have a skeleton service on its main route from Edinburgh via Newcastle and Yorkshire to London.
Oh, just don't go anywhere. Really don't go. I don't know why anyone goes anywhere on a bank holiday.
Well, I would say go sit in your garden, but it's Horrid weather as well, so sorry. Maybe just sit in and watch GB News, I think. That's probably the answer, isn't it?
Yeah, Jeremy Cox has been in touch. It's his 12th wedding anniversary today.
Aww.
To his beautiful wife, Deborah. I love her more than ever.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Happy anniversary, you
Happy anniversary. It's a nice day, isn't it, for an anniversary, 4th of May?
Is it?
I think so. I think May's just a nice month, isn't it?
Well,
You've got a wedding anniversary in May.
Yeah. Well, it is a nice month.
There you go. I approve.
Yes, well, thank you very much. I'm sure Jeremy and Deborah approve of that too.
Yes. Well, happy anniversary, you too.
Yes. Now, let's have a look at some of the stories coming into the newsroom this morning, and the public have been warned to avoid hospitals in Bristol after a critical incident was reported. That's when a ceiling collapsed in A&E, causing a power outage. 10 fire engines at the Bristol Royal Infirmary yesterday as patients had to leave after being plunged into darkness.
The Kremlin has accused Lord David Cameron of a direct escalation of the war in Ukraine after the foreign president told President Zelensky of Ukraine that the country could use British weapons to strike Russian targets. In his starkest warning yet during a visit to Kyiv, Lord Cameron said Kyiv must defeat Russia or else Europe faces a very dangerous future.
And Barry Manilow has become the latest in a lineup of stars affected by tech issues at Manchester's new Co-op Live Arena, yet to properly open. It's going to accommodate 23,000 people eventually, but loads of people have had to cancel. Take That took their concert elsewhere. Olivia Rodriguez was cancelled. Peter Kay hasn't been able to perform either.
It's going to be very miserable out there, I'm afraid. But Aidan McGibbon's going to tell us more.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures as they rise could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast. And that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of Northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Dear me. Right, this is what you need to know this morning. You're going to get your hands on our biggest cash prize to date. It's an incredible £20,000 in tax-free cash. It could all be yours. This is how.
The next Great British Giveaway winner could be you, with a massive £20,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Imagine how you'd react getting that winning call from us.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox, and I won the Great British Giveaway. I'd say, why not? What is it? The price of a text and £2 to enter. And if I can win it, anybody can win it. And they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us. Great news coming up. Gavin and Stacey is back. We'll be finding out when and where you can watch it. That's next.
...2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
King Charles is well known for his views on climate change, and apparently he's now taking steps to make sure that his Sandringham estate is more eco-friendly. Well, it's being reported that the King is planning to have 2,000 solar panels installed on that estate, and it's set to make the estate largely self-sufficient with a supply of its own green electricity. Well, joining me now is former Royal correspondent, the absolute legend, that is Michael Cole. Michael, twice in 2 days I feel blessed. Look, King Charles has long been talking up his eco-credentials. Some may uncharitably compare him to Greta Thunberg in a tweed suit. It's one thing, however, to be self-sufficient in energy, but got to be said, solar panel farms, they're hardly eco-friendly, are they? They destroy environments. What's your take?
I certainly agree with that. The King has indeed, as you say, Martin, and good afternoon to you, applied for planning permission. Now, this is going to be a bit of a mini solar farm, 2,000 solar panels on a site of 2 hectares. And as he has the Sandringham estate, 20,000 acres, 4 acres isn't going to be very much, and it's nowhere near where he lives at Sandringham House. Now, these things, which we're seeing on the screen, are hugely controversial up here. A monster one is being planned on the borders between Suffolk and Cambridge, and the people there really despise it. As they say quite rightly, is this grade A agricultural land being turned over to this semi-industrial use and spoiling the look of the countryside and changing it in a negative way.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Now, Gavin and Stacey look set for a bit of a comeback. I've never seen it.
You have missed out.
I know, but of course I've heard of it because it was huge.
Yeah.
An old, what's she called? Ruth Jones.
Yes, genius.
Stacey, she's very good. I've just been watching her recently in Fat Friends.
So you'd like it a lot.
I probably would, you see.
Yeah,
there you
it's
go.
very, very good. But it's back, so Hayley Palmer is here to tell us all about it. Morning, Hayley.
Morning. It's great to be here, and I cannot believe, Stephen, that you have not seen Gavin and Stacey.
No.
We need to change that for you.
OK, we'll get on it.
Honestly, it's just one of those shows that you watch it and it just makes you feel really good. It's very relatable and they're national treasures. I'm so glad it's coming back. I don't usually like Christmas, but now it's coming back Christmas Day. I can't wait.
Oh, is that when it is? Christmas Day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we've got a while to wait yet, then.
Yeah, and I actually saw an interview with Larry Lamb on Loose Women, and he said it's never coming back But he lied to us because it is, and we're so excited. And there was so much great reaction on Instagram and Twitter yesterday. I just think it's brilliant. There they are, and I want to know. I mean, are Gavin and Stacey still together? What's happened since? Because there was a cliffhanger the last time we saw it, where Nessa proposed to Smithy, so we want to know if he said yes, and also what happened on the fishing trip is the big question.
Do you think we're going to get any of those answers, Hayley?
I think we are, because they know what the nation needs and what I need in my life. I need answers.
And they've teased us, haven't they, with this image on Instagram, so that they held up the script, didn't they?
The finale, so this really is it?
This really is it now. But I just think it's brilliant. For me, it is just one of those shows that just makes me laugh. I forget about everything when I watch it. And like I say, it's going to make our Christmas for 2024.
Oh, well, jolly good.
They know what the people want.
Yes, absolutely.
Shall we talk about Co-op Live Arena and all the problems
What's going on?
that have plagued it?
I know, it's really disappointing, isn't it? Because there's been so many shows cancelled. I don't actually know what is going on. I've tried to investigate it, and it just seems that there is technical issues. But I guess they have to put health and safety first, don't they, at these massive arenas? However, I do think the fans come first, and it is really good that they've been able to find a different venue where they can actually still do the concerts. Because, these days, ticket prices are super expensive, aren't they? We're talking hundreds of pounds, and people travel and, get hotels and stuff. So it is good that people can go to a different venue, but hopefully the issues would be resolved. But speaking of concerts, I don't know if you saw in the paper today, it's headline news, that there was a guy that was singing in a bar last night, and half an hour he had to stand in for Ollie Murs because Ollie Murs cancelled his flight was cancelled.
What? You're joking?
Yeah, his name's Daniel Rooney, and he's one to watch. I mean, he must be a megastar now. I mean, his influence following must be huge. He had half an hour notice, but sometimes I think that might be the best thing.
Yeah, don't have to think about it.
Otherwise, you're like, oh, gosh, I don't know if I can do it. So, yeah, Ollie Murs was supporting Take That. Ollie Murs has never missed a gig.
Supporting... Well, hold on. So this guy who was just playing in a bar then ends up supporting Take That.
Yes. And if I was him, I'd be like, I want to go back on tonight. I'd get a taste for it. I'd be like, right, this is it now. But I really hope that it is one of those success stories where he goes on to bigger and better things. I mean, apparently he was discovered by Ross King, who's the Good Morning Britain showbiz correspondent, and he spotted him in the bar, and he said, I know who would be a good replacement. And that's how it happened. And I just think that is such a brilliant story. And good on Daniel Rooney. I mean, it must have been absolutely terrifying. But you know what? We want to see new talent break through, and I'm absolutely rooting for him. So follow him.
Do you know who that happened to before? Oddly enough, Billy Fury.
Wow.
Billy Fury, back in the 40s. I mean, he was huge. He was like a proper megastar, and he went to see... who did we have on the show the other day? Marty Wilde.
Oh, yeah. I love Marty Wilde,
back in the 40s, 50s it must have been, or early 60s. And this Marty Wilde's manager said, you sound good, literally pushed him onto the stage.
Yeah, sometimes...
And he was a megastar.
That's what I mean. Sometimes you kind of manifesting it, you're in the right time, the right place, and... that's a great story, and big up to Marty Wilde, who I think is in his 80s now, and he's still on
85.
tour. I've been round to his house to film with the Wildes for a cup of tea. Kim's garden, she's a king gardener.
Oh, yeah.
They're a great family, a super talented family, the whole Wildes. So, they're all musicians. So big up to them for sure.
And should we talk about Baby Reindeer, because the drama continues?
Have you seen it, Ellie?
I have.
Well, Dean in the office said to me, you need to watch Baby Reindeer, and I thought it was some kind of cute little nice show. I'm still traumatised, Stephen. I need counselling after that. Have you seen it? It's a 7-part Netflix series which you need to watch this bank holiday. As well as Gavin and Stacey.
I've got a lot to do.
You've got a lot going on this weekend.
You've got a lot of homework.
Now, this is based on a true story, and that's what I find quite horrifying. It is this dark. It has twists, but my goodness, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm absolutely hooked. I might have to watch it for a second time.
I've heard people doing that, actually.
I know, we need to get a life, but honestly, it just gets you. And what's really interesting is that people have actually tracked down the real-life stalker.
Yeah, so if people who haven't seen it, should we explain what it's about?
Yeah, so it's about a guy that's working in a bar in London. He's a comedian, and he's just, you know, living his best life in London. But he one day finds this lady in the bar, and she says to him, "Oh, I can't afford a cup of tea." And he says, "Oh, I'll give you a cup of tea on the house." She says she's a lawyer, but things don't quite add up. And then before you know it, she is sending huge amounts of text, huge amounts of emails, and apparently those emails that you see in the show are the emails that they actually had in real life, and then the language is slightly off, and it's haunting. It really is. But I've got to say, the actress that plays Martha, I think she is absolutely phenomenal. I mean,
yes, and she's a breakout star, isn't she?
She is, yeah. I mean, apparently she has been in quite a few things. You know, they say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, but you know, this really is her big break, and he really wanted her for that role, and apparently she got her makeup artist friend to make her look older and really like appropriate for the part. But she really plays that character well, because I couldn't take my eyes off her. She's absolutely fascinating. And yeah, like I said, I think I need counselling after watching it.
Right, well, that's another one to add to the list. Blimmin' heck,
You're going
Hayley.
to be busy.
Yeah, you're busy.
It's a lot of homework, Hayley. Thank you very much.
My
And we'll see you later
pleasure.
on.
Thank you.
Yes, you do need to watch that. It's very good. Very, very good. Let us know if you've watched it, actually, at gbnews.com/you'll-say.
I'm busy watching something with Billy Bob Thornton in it.
Yes, you were telling me about Billy Bob
was I?
Thornton yesterday, do you remember?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Inside my brain.
When we went for our breakfast.
Oh, we had a breakfast meeting yesterday.
We did yesterday, and I ordered very well. You, less so.
It was very tasty. There was just not much of it.
Go to my Instagram story and you can see what we're talking about.
Yes.
But you said it was very nice, so that's good.
Very, very tasty.
He was very jealous.
Whet to the appetite. I had to have McDonald's on the way home.
Did you?
Right, we've got the
That is
sport.
something you do, actually.
We've got the sport coming up with Aidan in just a minute.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
The International Monetary Fund has estimated that Russia will outgrow all advanced economies in 2024. This is in spite of all the sanctions the West has imposed on Russia, in spite of its removal of the SWIFT banking system, in spite of the fact that Germany has almost entirely weaned itself off Russian gas, and in spite of the 50,000 soldiers who have died and the endless resources it has poured into the Ukraine war. So, what are we missing here? Why is Russia going to grow more than the rest of us? Well, it's simple. Russia is willing to make use of its own energy resources to provide abundant supply to its citizens. Increased supply means lower prices, and cheap energy is inextricably linked to economic growth. But since 2008, the United States has grown at twice the rate of the United Kingdom. The big difference is that America has much lower energy prices, while the UK insists on masochistic green policies. But it's no surprise that the Green fanatics in the Scottish government, where they know how to be fanatics, have had to backtrack on their flagship greenhouse gas reduction target. The SNP has committed to reducing Scotland's CO2 emissions by 75% by 2030. Now, the Climate Change Committee has reviewed its policy and advised that the absurd reduction target is out of reach.
Can we accept the CCC's recent re-articulation that this Parliament's interim 2030 target is out of reach? We must now act to chart a course to 2045.
It is time to recognise the truth that net zero by 2050 is unrealistic and unaffordable. It's time we rid ourselves of this foolish and costly idea that will simply make people cold and poor. We need to prioritise cheap energy for Britain's consumers and for companies, for industry, enabling economic growth that will benefit us all.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've got time for the sport this morning at 8:33 with Aidan. Good morning. Luton Town, they were hoping for a bit of a lifeline, weren't they, yesterday? Didn't quite get it.
They were, yeah. I mean, look, let's look at what they had to do last night. I mean, Everton were already safe from earlier in the week. It looked a few weeks ago as if that was going to be the relegation six-pointer that we were expecting. It didn't turn out like that, but Luton Town did get a draw. They almost equalised late on. But that is probably, if you're looking at it mathematically or looking at it dispassionately, just standing back and look at the point situation alone, notwithstanding what actually happened in the game, you would think now that it's probably over for Luton, you would think. However, Nottingham Forest in action today, it's going to be difficult because, you know, Stephen, we've still got these points deductions that are yet to be handed down. It's very unfair. There are livelihoods at stake here. And it means...
could throw the whole table off, couldn't it?
Without doubt. And so, I mean, Everton have had points deductions, then they've had... they got a couple back, and then they had another points deduction. And so, you know, how do you plan around that? I mean, if you're signing players for next season and they don't know if you're going to be in the division, we're already in May. You know, you have a huge... You know, if you're trying to do deals with players from, like, January onwards with a view to signing players for the following season, then I think you're in real trouble because players aren't going to come to you if they don't know what division you're going to be in. Also, Luton Town went up to the Premier League and they said it was going to be worth £250 million to them. That is life-changing money over a 10, 15-year period. That's generational transformation financially to build a stadium. Now, they don't know what division they're going to be in next season because of Nottingham Forest point situation, so it needs to be dealt with. Surely when they know this is coming down the road, as far back as months ago, it needs to be dealt with a bit quicker. It's unfair. It needs to be an interval in the year where points deductions are handed out. Hopefully we won't see too many more.
No.
What else have you got for us, Aidan?
Well, let's look at Ipswich Town because they're in a similar position to Luton last year, looking at promotion. They need a point today against Huddersfield, who are already not mathematically relegated, but almost there. And it would be a huge, huge thing, just as it was for Luton last year. You're talking hundreds of millions of pounds in the coffers. Ipswich is a town which hasn't seen Premier League football for 22 years. This was the club who had Bobby Robson.
Isn't it funny everyone's heard of Ipswich Town?
They have. Well, they were a famous club. I mean, they punched above their weight. I mean, they've won the League Championship back in the early 60s, I think it was. They won the UEFA Cup in the 80s. They won the FA Cup as well back in 78, I think it was. And so... But they had Bobby Robson, they had Sir Ralph Ramsey, who won the 66 World Cup. I think they have tremendous football history, and they're almost like a legacy club without being in the Premier League. And I love going there. One of the first jobs I did was go to Ipswich and cover them, and they were very hospitable. They loved the media turning up. They loved journalists, and they looked at their history a lot. You'd go down the corridors and you see everything up on the wall, everything they've done, all the newspaper cuttings. It would be great to have them back in the Premier League, and it's good to have a club from East Anglia as well. But they have to perform today. They have to at least get a point at home to Huddersfield. Otherwise, that opens the door to Leeds United, who, of course, were beaten last week at QPR, and that scuppered their chances. But we'll have more on Ipswich tomorrow if they get up. I don't want to jinx them too much, but it'll be a wonderful story if they manage to get over the line today. And a huge story for Kieran McKenna. Kieran McKenna came through. He was the manager, or he is the manager. He came through the youth coach. He was a youth development manager at Manchester United. How much more success does he have to have before Sir Jim Ratcliffe looks at him and thinks, look, he's a Man United kid. He's had huge success. Take it, because Ipswich got promoted last season from League One. You see, this would be back-to-back promotions, an extraordinary achievement, not achieved in this country since 2012. And so maybe they might look at him and think, could he do a job at Man United? Maybe he's not experienced enough, but it'd be a hell of a step up. He's around about my age, so he's got plenty of life left in him.
I was going to say he's a bit too old.
No, he's a bit younger. He's in his 30s. Right. He's in his 30s. It's an extraordinary. It'll be an extraordinary achievement. And the thing is, Stephen, they haven't had parachute payments, so they haven't been up and down all the time in the Premier League to the Championship and getting all this money which bloats your budget, which enables you to buy players, and it means you just keep going up and going down. They haven't had that for 22 years. So this has all been done organically. It's all been done from scratch. It was in a mess 3 or 4 years ago, Ipswich Town, when they came down from the Premier League. And as I say, I know Ipswich Town quite well. I know the area. It would be wonderful for the town if they were to get up to the Championship.
Worth a bother too.
Oh yeah, without doubt, going up. I mean, they reckon now promotion. This is why the playoff final, which is happening next week or the week after, I think it is, it's bigger than the FA Cup final now because, Ellie, of the financial rewards that come with it. It really is incredible, the amount of money. They're talking about 250 billion. 200, not billion, sorry.
Billion, way!
No, that's our defence budget. No, 250 million pounds to a club, to a regional club like that is enormous.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Would be. Should we talk about the snooker?
Yeah, why not? So, I mean, I touched on the semi-finals earlier on. I won't go over that again, although they are ongoing today. the big thing is that Barry Hearn this week, who is the chairman of Matchroom, or the president of Matchroom, who put on the snooker events, he's talking about now, I think the curtains are going to come down at some stage on the Crucible, which holds, how many people, can you remember how many people the Crucible holds?
993.
983. If I suppose the players invite their family, then I suppose...
to be honest, when you actually asked me earlier on, I thought it would be in the thousands.
I did as well. I was actually quite surprised.
Reputation.
Well, it has. I suppose it's a theatre, though, isn't it? It's a theatre, and so I wouldn't have thought... It's not, at least it's open, unlike the Co-op Arena, of course, but having said that, I think they can see a time... Saudi gets what it wants, because they've got this enormous budget, this enormous public investment funds, which basically say, we'll have that sport, and that sport. Anything's for sale. And Barry Hearn's concern is his members, as in the snooker players, and they're going to earn big money if they go to Saudi. It's been in the doldrums for a number of years now. Haven't helped this week, in fact, by the fact that former champions John Higgins, Judd Trump, and, of course, the stellar name Ronnie O'Sullivan have been eliminated, so they're left with 4 players in the semi-finals who aren't particularly well known to an audience outside of snooker.
No, but that's interesting, isn't it? Because...
I suppose we didn't know Luke Littler, did we?
No, well, exactly. You've got to let the new talent come through. Maybe Needs.
I'm clinging to the past too much, aren't I?
Yeah, you are, yeah. Forwards, not backwards, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's Barry Hearn's thinking. He wants to get... I mean, I don't think every tournament will go to Saudi, but how long before everything goes there? That's the concern. And I think if you're Saudi, you're going to want the World Championships, aren't you? And I think it'd be sad, but it would be sad for... We talked about the benefits that Ipswich would have going to the Premier League. It's not particularly good if Sheffield loses that tournament. But there was talk about them moving out of the Crucible 30 years ago. And so, it's not a new thing, but I think it's finally going to happen now. The contract runs for another 3 years. After that, I think you'll see it decamp.
OK. Aidan, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks to you both. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we're going to be going through the newspapers with Winston Davis and Suzanne Evans. That's next.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's a remarkable story, isn't it?
Amazing.
Extraordinary. And also, she was unflappable, apparently, the Princess Royal.
She's
just
brilliant.
refused to get out of the car and said, I'm not going anywhere. Extraordinary. Well, Jim Beaton was awarded the George Cross for protecting the Princess, and delighted to say joins us now, along with the former head of Royalty Protection, Di Davis. Jim, you won't remember, but I met you some time ago at the Imperial War Museum when Princess Anne was opening an exhibition to do with the George Cross, and you were there reunited with her. And you told me then what great admiration you had for the Princess, cool under fire, but you didn't do so badly yourself.
It was probably my job. And also, I had a wee bit of police training, not very much, but a little bit, whereas Princess Anne had nothing. And yet, the way she displayed it, you would have thought she'd been highly trained to deal with any type of that situation.
Even though you'd had some training, you took 3 bullets for the Princess. You effectively stood between her and a deranged gunman.
Well, I was supposed to be a protection officer, really, so I just tried to fuddle about. You must remember that back in 1974, there was no communication, and we were extremely lucky that Michael Hills, who was outside Clarence House and nearby, had got one of the fast police radios, or radios on his shoulder, so he was able to send a message out. Otherwise, we would have just been relying on the good old public to phone in and say there's something happening.
Yeah.
So times have changed drastically.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Let's take a look at the newspaper front pages this morning. And The Guardian leads with what looks like the Conservatives' worst election results in decades.
The Independent has the Prime Minister's agonising wait to find out who's going to be the next Mayor of the West Midlands. Will Andy Street hang on?
The Mirror celebrates a potential reunion between King Charles and Prince Harry as soon as next week.
The Telegraph has the Prime Minister defiantly saying his party have everything to fight for.
The Express leads with Rishi Sunak seeing off threats to oust him after securing key Tory successes in the local elections. Well, joining us now to go through the papers this morning is Winston Davis, as a social campaigner, and political commentator Suzanne Evans. Great to see you both this morning. And Winston, let's start with you, shall we? And we're talking about parking fees. They are rocketing.
So what they've got is parking charges have gone up sort of 20-25% across councils across the country, especially in seaside towns. And you've got areas like Morecambe, where else we've got in here? Morecambe, Scarborough, Whitby, Philly, and they've all gone up. They're talking about Southend, they're talking about introducing charges from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. It could increase the day charge by 30%. And they've been accused of profiteering. They've said, oh, no, it's down to inflation, putting pressure on our budgets. But the thing is, they're saying that we're in a cost of living crisis here. These people that are going to the seaside, or a lot of people going to the seaside, maybe can't afford a holiday abroad and it's their time to get away with a family. And here you are, demonising them, trying to, rate them of their money. And also, local businesses going to suffer because people say, do you know, actually, I'm not going to go to that place because the parking's so high.
I tell you what annoys me, though. I mean, Morecambe, which is desperate for investment.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing you want to do is put people off going.
Absolutely. I went to university in Lancaster, and Morecambe, is where a lot of the students went to live because it was cheaper, and it's a really very run-down area, and this isn't going to help at all. But what concerns me is there seems to be across the board progressively aggressive anti-driver policies. You've got low traffic neighbourhoods, you've got 20-mile-per-hour zones. Even I was driving on one yesterday, and it was a dual carriageway, but 20 miles an hour. Ridiculous. I'm very anti-speeding, but that is insane.
Yeah.
I think pay per mile is coming in, which frightens me because that means people who are reliant on their cars are going to be penalised.
Well, that's what his alleged Sadiq Khan is going to do.
Yeah, well, let's see if he gets in.
Yeah, let's see. We're expecting that result by this evening.
I mean, I have to say, it does feel like when you've got a car... look, for a lot of people, especially in the countryside, you have no... If you want to get anywhere, you have to have a car.
Yeah. And we already pay, 70% in tax on our fuel. You've got vehicle excise duty.
And that's what they're saying as well. A lot of these places... Sorry, Susan. A lot of these places are in remote places, so you need a vehicle to get to them. So if you need a vehicle to get to them, you're going to get charged higher. It's like they're squeezing people into a corner.
At Southend, it's absolutely extortionate already. If I was to visit Southend, I would park in town and then walk down to the seafront.
Try Brighton.
It's a fortune.
Well, Brighton,
Brighton's
like 15 quid for a quarter of an hour. It's awful.
Oh, my goodness.
What?
Brighton's terrible. Yeah, terrible in some parts. Absolutely atrocious. I remember I wanted to park for 15 minutes once. It would have cost me like a tenner. I thought, sod it, I'm going to risk getting a ticket.
Yeah, well...
Because at that price, it's worth it.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you, actually. We shouldn't ever be in that position. No. Suzanne, what's this in the Mirror about someone at Madeleine McCann vigil?
Yeah, so there was a vigil held, and there's a woman who Julia Vandelt, she lives in Poland. It's a really sad story, actually. She's clearly got mental health problems. She says she has very little memory of her childhood. She worried that she was adopted. She's got this issue with her eye, the same as Madeleine McCann. So when she heard about Madeleine McCann, she thought, I must be her.
Right.
And her story went global, basically. basically. Then it turned out she took a DNA test. It turned out she couldn't possibly have been Madeleine McCann, and she apologised. She turned up at this vigil clutching a letter for the McCanns, presumably, I suspect, an apology letter. But obviously, in the meantime, her pretending to be her must have caused them immense grief. It's a really sorry story all around this.
It is. I mean, I guess the reality with it is that, by all accounts, she wasn't pretending. She thought it was a genuine...
She genuinely thought,
possibility. Because otherwise you wouldn't have done a DNA test, would you, if you knew it was definitely not going to work? I mean, as you say, someone who needs some support, I think.
Yeah, but actually she's had a heck of a lot of hate on social media.
She has.
Yeah.
Winston, should we talk about dating apps?
Yep, so we've got a new dating app.
Just checking, no, you've got a wedding ring on. You won't be using these.
No dating apps for me, all right?
I've told you to stay
just for the record, no dating apps for me. But there's a new dating app called Hati, or H-A-T-I, which means heart in Indonesian. And it was, it's been launched, or it's being launched by a lady called Zahira Adam, who was frustrated with the existing dating apps and said that 70% of people are suffering from dating app burnout, from swiping and getting ghosted. So she's going to open this app up where you have to have a video call and you have to have a voice note on your profile so that people can't message and you can't ghost. And actually, do you know what? I think it's interesting because in a world where we are, constantly now, especially the younger generation, they're on the phones and everything's isolated, this forces people to have some like face-to-face interaction.
So you can't type a message to someone?
Can't type a message. You have to speak to them. So initially, you have a 5-minute phone call with them. If you like the phone call, then you can take it on further on. No numbers exchanged. It's through the app for security. Right. If you like them, then you can take her on further from there. But actually, I really like it because, again, that face-to-face interaction, seeing each other's faces is important, and it's like we're getting more and more. I've been more and more away from it, so I think it's like refreshing.
You tempted, Suzanne?
No, I don't do dating apps, but I think this is quite interesting because to me, people's voices are really important. I think a voice can be quite sexy, or it can be that's lovely, Stephen. Keep talking, or it can really put you off. So I think the idea of speaking to someone on the phone, because you get such a better idea of people's personality when you speak to them as well, don't you? As opposed to people can look great on paper, but then don't sound so good in real life.
Yeah. And actually, I tell you what, because of all of these photo imaging, things they do to make people look different, without that,
filters and all that.
That sort of thing.
You won't have heard of them, Ellie, but you can get filters.
Can't filter your voice.
So obviously that's going to combat that, surely, unless there's some AI filter for video as well. But do you know what I mean? So it'll make it harder for people. Catfishing, that's it, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay,
have we lost the art of a phone call and conversation? Because it's all instant messaging now, isn't it? It's all WhatsApp and pinging each other messages.
It is,
and emojis and
I talk. Here I am talking,
and you're very good at it.
But thank you very much. But even I sometimes think, I'm not going to bother to phone. I'll just send a message.
Yeah.
But it's very impersonal.
That's what it is.
It is very impersonal.
I know she's terrible for it.
Oh, really?
If you ring her up, she doesn't answer the phone.
No, that's a no. We're always on FaceTime.
So you send her a voice note.
He's making it up.
No, this is true. You send her a voice note, and then she replies with text. So she never sends a voice note back, or very rarely. And when you ring up, she never answers.
Ellie.
She's always having to. In a restaurant. I'm getting my hair done.
I'm usually busy, but we FaceTime quite a lot, to be fair.
Well.
So, anyway, let us know what you think about that. gbnews.com/you'll say. Right, let's talk about wardrobe, shall we, Suzanne? Wardrobes for the super rich.
Yes, I love this. We should have a photograph of Kim Kardashian in her handbag room coming up, which is in her handbag room. There it is. Is that not every woman's dream?
I'd love a handbag.
Although I have to say, for my dream, it would have to have shoes in there
as
well, because I'm a shoe girl, really. But apparently, the latest thing, estate agents are all saying now, people want a high-end luxury dressing room. And this is in the Financial Times. They've spoken to a US designer who specialises in creating walk-in wardrobes and dressing rooms. How much do you think the average client of hers spends on a walk-in wardrobe dressing room? How much? Have a wild guess.
Imagine, because they're all bonkers, 100 grand.
Oh, $225,000 is the average. You could buy a 3-bed semi in Doncaster for that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Isn't it beautiful? I'll
tell you what, all right? I'm not for 200 grand walk-in but handbag things, whatever they are.
Are you not? That surprises me.
No, I'm not. I'm not. But I tell you what, if they've got a 200 grand handbag room, I want to know how much they're spending on their heating and bathrooms, and I'll come and do that for them.
What about a watch island? You know, a little island with pull-out drawers for your watch. That's what all the guys want, apparently.
that would
a
be
watch
quite nice.
island.
How many watches do you need to fill an island?
I think it's crazy. I think it's obscene. And actually, do you know what? I don't even know if that's any good for us as normal people looking at that. It just makes you feel even more inadequate. You're like, well, you know, they're spending 200 grand more than what I can spend on a house.
Exactly.
And maybe some people can't even buy a house. It's like...
Most of us are just like a dressing room, if it was just a little cupboard.
But they are hugely rich, these people. It's an entirely different world.
How does it compare to yours, Ellie?
I don't have a wardrobe room or a handbag room.
No?
I have a shelf or a garden. It's a very
present.
sorry state of affairs, Winston.
Present wrapping room, that's the other thing.
Oh, a wrapping room, I've heard of
Yeah, just
those.
so you can wrap up
Oh, well,
presents.
there's no need for that. You just stick your ironing board up and you do it there.
Good tip, that, Ellie.
That's my tip.
No, it's very good.
And then you can stand at the same time. There you go. You can have that one for free. Now, I've got a dodgy tummy, Winston.
Have you?
No.
It's an excuse to get out of a plan, apparently.
Yeah. So Grand Designs Live conducted a poll to find out, you know, why people are missing engagement. So we've got 39% of people tell white lies about being double booked when they actually have no plans. 1 in 10 parents lie about their children being sick, while 1 in 20 millennials claim their pet has fallen ill.
Oh, that's such a weak one. Millennials, get a grip.
But a lot of people...
That's a weak one.
Would you not blame Rex on it?
No, I can't even blame the pets.
But what they're saying is that a lot of people are actually making up excuses why they can't come, actually because they want to put the money away to save up for the house or to do a renovation on their house. So it's like, is it justifiable?
That's interesting, because I could not understand why this poll said people make excuses not to go to a wedding. Now, I love a good wedding. I'm going to a wedding this afternoon. My friends Dave and Dan are getting married in Buckinghamshire. Really looking forward to it. I love a wedding. But
Me too, I
it's
love
expensive.
a wedding. Yes,
You know, by the time I paid for the wedding present, my hotel, the travel,
Your outfit.
I might be
not
double
as much as the
booked
grooms are paying.
in about a year.
No, you won't be.
In about a year.
In about a year.
Someone getting married, are they?
Yeah, it might be double booked.
And you won't be double booked. You've got plenty of notice.
I will say, in all honesty, and I hope no one I know is watching, I am often double booked for things.
OK.
Because I'm quite antisocial. I like...
Really?
He's an introvert, you wouldn't believe it.
I am an introvert.
But they say, though, that we're just a polite nation and we just, you know, don't want to upset people.
Yeah. That is true. Suzanne and Winston, thank you very much indeed.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes if I haven't got anything else on. In the meantime, here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures as they rise could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with the best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast. And that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of Northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest cash prize we've given away to date. An incredible £20,000 that you could use however you like. And because it's totally tax-free, Every single penny will be in your bank account to do whatever you like with. £20,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours this summer. But you've got to be in it to win it. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
A man who worked for Sainsbury's for 20 years was sacked because he didn't pay for a few bags for life. Niamke Dofu put his shopping through a self-service checkout after his night shift, and CCTV showed him choosing the zero bags used option, and he was fired for gross misconduct. Well, joining me now to discuss this in our studio is the lawyer and broadcaster and great friend of the show, Andrew Eborn. Andrew, welcome to the studio. Join you, Martin. Certainly is. Now, on the one hand, yes, he was caught bang to rights on CCTV. It looked like, and the tribunal agreed, he stole the bags, but a 20-year career dashed on the rocks over 60p?
Yeah, I mean, the headlines are horrendous, aren't they? You sort of turn around on that sort of basis. So basically, there must be a valid reason for dismissing an employee, and you have to follow due process and so on and so forth. So they can look at about capability or conduct, and there has to be appropriate procedures set in place under employment law to afford that sort of protection. What they say, however, if there's gross misconduct, you can be dismissed instantly. Yeah. Now, gross misconduct includes criminal offence like theft. And the reality is, in the law, if you take property, whatever its value, with the intent of permanently depriving the person of it, then that is theft. And so what they did, they looked at the CCTV footage, and the Employment Tribunal had a look at this sort of stuff, and the guy wasn't just pressed no bags, he went backwards and forwards and so on and so forth. So he knew he was getting bags, and what they sort of turned in, I always sort of trust comes in on foot, but leaves on horseback. And so what Sainsbury's are saying in their defence is, hang on, we lost trust in the guy, even though 20 years and so on and so forth. We need to make sure we have trust in our employees.
Do you think they've thrown the book at him, thrown the bag at him, to make all of us worry about us being watched by CCTV? Is this fella a scapegoat?
Oh, I think without doubt it's a story and a warning for everybody.
That's not what you're laughing at. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on Saturday, the 4th of May. Today, the Prime Minister puts Tory rebels in their place as he declares his party has everything to fight for as the nation awaits some crucial mayoral results.
Despite gaining 170 new council seats, Labour's stance on Gaza causes a surprise defeat in Oldham. Could it be a warning to an election-ready Starmer?
It was a bleak night for the Conservatives, but it wasn't all sunshine and roses for Labour either. What does it all mean for Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer? Find out more with me very soon.
King Charles looks set to reunite with Prince Harry as he returns to the UK next week.
And what would the 4th of May be without a nod to the world of Star Wars? We'll be talking all things Star Wars in just a bit.
It's fair to say the weather this weekend will be very mixed, varying from place to place and from day to day. I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
You're not a sci-fi fan, are you?
I'm not, no. Could you tell? No, I'm not into any of that.
Actually, I do love all a bit that. It's the gadgets, though, I like.
Yeah, you like it enough for the two of us, I think.
I've, you know, the Star Trek communicator badges, I've got a few of. And I'd really like a lightsaber.
Would you? I'm surprised you don't have one, actually, framed.
Yeah, you can buy them with like properly made. They're quite expensive, though.
I love the fact you've looked this up.
I would. Oh yeah, I've dreamt over the Saber Handles websites for years.
How much would they set you back?
About $500. Got them made in the States. Yeah, that's why I haven't got one.
That's obscene.
I can look at expensive
and then it would
stuff.
be postage on top of that.
Well, the postage.
You've got to think about the postage.
The postage and import duty.
And import duties, it's not worth it. So I'm glad that you've been sensible.
I've never done it, but I would very much like one.
But yes, May the 4th be with you to those who celebrate.
Looks like a TARDIS in the back garden, just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, all the things I've dreamed of and can never have.
Anyway, do keep those views coming in on any of the stories that we're talking about today. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, today is set to be another busy one on the politics front. It's not over on the council elections yet. We're still waiting for more to come through. Plus, of course, we have 7 mayoral election results on the way as well.
Well, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said the Conservatives have everything to fight for as his party celebrate a win in Tees Valley.
Now, the Conservatives, though, once all the council seats are in, are predicted to have lost about half of their councillors, so we think.
Well, joining us now is the Deputy National Campaign Coordinator for the Labour Party, Ellie Reeves. Good to see you this morning. Ellie, look, it wasn't a good night so far for the Tories, but it hasn't been sunshine and roses for the Labour Party either. You lost control of the council in Oldham, which was a shock result to many putting it down to the Muslim vote there, protesting Labour's stance on Gaza. This is a warning shot, isn't it, to the Labour Party in a general election year?
Well, if you look at the results across the country, I'm really pleased that we won the Blackpool by-election, for example, with a swing to Labour of 26%, the third highest swing to Labour in a post-war by-election. We won councils up and down the country in places we need to win back at the general election: Hartlepool, Thurrock, Redditch, Rushmore. These are important results for us, but I recognise the point that you make. In Oldham, actually, we'd been losing councillors there for a couple of years, so I don't think Gaza is the only reason. There's some local issues as well. But I do recognise that we need to win back the trust and support of those that didn't feel able to vote for us in this set of elections. We've made our position in relation to Gaza clear. We've called for an immediate ceasefire. We've said there should be no ground offensive in Rafah, but we also want a lasting political solution which includes recognition of the state of Palestine. So between now and the general election, we'll be working really hard to win back support of those that didn't feel they could put their trust in us this time.
It's difficult talking to people like you on days like this, because when we talk to the Tories, we say, well, it's been very disappointing, and they say, well, it's disappointing, but, you know, it's not as bad as it could have been. Obviously, the Labour Party has done very well, so you've got a lot to be pleased about. However, isn't it fair to say maybe your expectations were a bit higher?
Look, I think we're pleased but not complacent. But, you know, I think a good barometer of the public mood is the East Midlands mayoralty. That's a new mayoralty. So, you know, it's different to, for example, Tees Valley, where we're up against an incumbent mayor with very much their own brand, distancing himself from the Conservatives. East Midlands is a new mayoralty, which Labour won. The important thing about that is that within that area, there are a large number of battleground seats that we need to win at the general election to form a government. Places like Bolsover, Mansfield, South Derbyshire, the seats that we need to win. So that's why winning in the East Midlands is a really good indicator of the mood and where things are going.
Yeah, but if you use these as some sort of barometer, and I know it's a dodgy science in a sense, but it would put Labour, if it was sort of translated into a parliamentary election, it puts Labour as the largest party, but no overall majority.
Well, at local elections, you always see independents and the smaller parties picking up more votes than at the general election. The important thing for us is looking at where we made gains, whether we're making gains in the areas that we need to win at the general election. Places like Hartlepool, places like Thurrock, Rushmore, Redditch, these are the areas that we need to win at the general election. So that's what we're focused on with these sets of results.
Talking about a barometer of public mood, if we look at the Blackpool South by-election, the turnout was just 32.4%. 5%. I mean, turnouts are generally low by elections, but it does demonstrate, doesn't it, that nobody is getting voters out. A lot of them are sitting on their hands. There's not the excitement of 96 and 97. There isn't this groundswell of excitement and enthusiasm for Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. I spend a lot of time speaking to voters on the doorstep, and the course of this campaign, I spoke to voters across the country who had said that they'd always voted Conservative, but they were fed up after 14 years of Conservative government, the mismanagement of the economy, leading to people paying higher mortgage rates, NHS waiting lists staggeringly high, and they were putting their trust in Labour, often for the first time or for the first time for a long time. And, turnouts are always lower in by-elections and in local elections. That result in Blackpool was pretty seismic, a 26% swing to Labour, the third highest in any post-war by-election. It does show people are putting their trust in the Labour Party.
It's interesting. It's a valid point Ellie raises, Ellie at this end, that is, in that the number of messages we got yesterday of people just saying, when we said, who would you like to see elected, and then people are just saying none of the above, which actually is, I mean, that's worrying for democracy in this country.
Well, what we've seen in this set of election results is people are coming out to vote for Labour and putting their trust in us, and that's demonstrated by the council results where we have picked up councils. A council like Rushmore that we've never held before, Milton Keynes that we've taken control of after many years. So I think there's a positive story to tell, but we are never complacent. We fought for every vote in these local and mayoral elections, and indeed in Blackpool South, and we'll fight for every vote at the general election as well.
I wanted to ask you about your colleague, the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. He's facing huge backlash, isn't he, for a post that he made on X, claiming that a win for the Tories in London in this mayoral election is a win for racists, white supremacists and Islamophobes the world over. Do you think that was an appropriate post by your colleague?
I think things always get heated in any election campaign. It's perhaps not something that I would have posted, but things do get heated. And I think Wes was trying to make the point that it's been a fairly toxic campaign, and Sadiq Khan faces a huge amount of racism throughout this campaign. I think that's the important thing to call out.
Isn't he adding to the toxicity with that kind of rhetoric on X towards people that vote Tory in London? I mean, Lee Anderson lost the Tory whip for his comments about the London Mayor Sadiq Khan, which many claimed were racist, and people are calling now for Wes Streeting to suffer the same consequences.
No, I don't think that at all. As I say, things get heated in election campaigns. I don't think it's anything like what Lee Anderson said, or the shocking amount of racism that Sadiq Khan has faced in his time as mayor and during this campaign.
OK, Ellie Reeves, really good to talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon, no doubt. Thanks very much indeed.
Well, let's speak now to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who joins us live now. Good to see you this morning, Olivia. What did you make, then, of what Ellie Reeves just had to say?
Well, it's quite difficult for Labour because obviously they are happy with the results of the local elections yesterday. But as you could sort of tell from reading between the lines of what she was saying, they could have been a bit happier. Yes, it was an absolutely terrible night for the Conservatives. They're losing half of their council seats. But it wasn't a fantastic night for Labour either. They won some council seats, but about half of the seats which were lost from the Tories went to independents rather than to Labour. The low turnout thing is a problem too. The Labour Party has been worried for a while now that although people really don't like the Conservatives and are definitely not going to be voting Conservative at the next election, there's a bit of reluctance to actually get out and go and vote Labour. As you said there, Ellie, there isn't the same sort of groundswell of support for Keir Starmer as there was for Tony Blair in 1997. At this election, at the coming election in 2024, to be honest, that probably isn't going to be too much of a problem, and Labour probably aren't too worried about it. If they're winning simply because the Conservatives are not doing well, then that's probably OK. But if you look a sort of year or two into the future, a Labour government which is only in power because the Conservatives are so unpopular might struggle a bit to get to govern successfully and to be even thinking about a second term in office. We are, of course, waiting. I'm at City Hall, you can see behind me, for the London mayoral result. And there are whispers in the air that we could be in for a huge shock. Sadiq Khan was well on track to win his unprecedented third term in office. All the polls put him way ahead. But because of a number of interesting factors which weren't really taken into consideration, it now looks as though the vote might be very close indeed. Why is that? Well, one reason is the Muslim vote. We know that Keir Starmer has angered Muslims across London from his stance on Israel and Gaza, and it could be that natural Labour Muslim voters just stay at home in London today, even though Sadiq Khan's stance on Gaza is very, very different from the leaders. The Lib Dem vote is another question which we don't quite know the answer to. Previously, Lib Dem voters in London mayoral elections would put the Lib Dem candidate first and usually the Labour candidate, Sadiq Khan, second. It's a completely different voting system this time round. There are no first and second preferences. So what are Lib Dems going to do? How do they feel about Sadiq Khan? That is something we just don't know yet. The other factor, of course, is ULEZ, very, very unpopular policy brought in by Sadiq Khan. Susan Hall, the Conservative candidate, has essentially been fighting on purely an anti-ULEZ ticket. How is that going to play out? So far, it looks like it's done her wonders. We can see from the turnout that turnout in the donut area, the areas around central London, which tend to be more Conservative-minded, the areas which will be affected by ULEZ, have had a much higher turnout, on average over 40%, than the areas in central London. That could do wonders for Susan Hall as well. So Labour's looking pretty happy this morning, but a little bit nervous, both about this low turnout voter apathy issue and also preparing themselves for what might just be a shock result in the capital.
Interesting. We shall be back to you, of course, throughout the course of the day, Olivia. Thanks very much indeed. Of course, it's not all about the filling in the donut. Sometimes it's just about the dough.
Yes.
There you go. I've never heard it called donut before like that. It's quite interesting, though.
Yes.
I'm surprised at Wes Streeting with that thing on Twitter. In a way, all Labour needs to do to win the general election is shut up and let it happen, in a way. And it's making comments of that, implying that anyone who didn't vote for Sadiq Khan is a racist. That's the implication. I know that's not what he meant, but that's the implication. Is a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, lots of you are not very happy about this. Mel Potter says, Lee Anderson, one comment about Sadiq Khan, London Mayor. He's kicked out of his party for racism. Wes Streeting makes a lot worse comments about all people who vote Tory and vote for Susan Hall, and they say it's just the heat of the election. Double standards, says Mel.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not directly comparable, but they're also not that different. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have suggested that you take the whip off Wes Streeting for that, but then I wouldn't have done for Lee Anderson either. No. And you put it all in context. But I do think Wes Streeting, who is an experienced politician now, and actually quite impressive within the Labour Party. You can see him as a potential future leader at some point. I just think that was a really stupid thing to do. It's going to take a mistake. If Labour loses this election, it's going to be because of their own errors rather than anything the government does, and that's a big error.
Yeah, and we're talking about campaigns potentially being very toxic this year. Well, is a comments not like that, not just adding to the toxicity of it all?
Yeah.
I would say probably yes.
I would have... Honestly, I thought he would have known better than to do something like that.
I was surprised, to be honest. But do keep those views coming in. GBnews.com. GBnews.com/you'll say.
That's it.
On the screen for you.
Right, now, Prince Harry looks set to meet his father in London next week as the Duke of Sussex jets in for the 10th anniversary Invictus Games.
Yes, King Charles resumed public duties earlier this week after getting the all clear following his battle with cancer.
Well, earlier we spoke to royal commentator Michael Cole.
Good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Steve. Well, just as I predicted on this very channel, the King will almost certainly see his younger son when he's in London next week. The King has made it clear from the outset that his door is already always open to his younger son, who he tends to call my darling boy. And on Wednesday, the King will be at a garden party at Buckingham Palace, and Prince Harry is here principally for a Thanksgiving service to celebrate the 10th anniversary of his brilliant innovation, the Invictus Games. That will be at St Paul's Cathedral. So usually they're 5,000 miles apart. Now they'll only be 2 miles apart, and I'm quite sure that they will get together. And at that, there we see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at Whistler in Canada when they were announcing the foundation of Winter Games for the Invictus for the wounded and damaged ex-servicemen and women from 22 different nations. A brilliant initiative, and the sort of thing that, of course, he was so good at and should be doing more of. That, of course, was all pre-Meghan, the foundation of the Invictus Games. One thing I think, Ellie and Stephen, we can say that won't happen is that Prince Harry will not be meeting with his older brother, William. That's going to take a lot of reconciliation. And Prince Harry is going to have to mend a few fences. I would say enough fences to encircle the whole 20,000 acres of the Sandringham estate. A lot of humble pie has got to be eaten too. I should think Meghan in her kitchen in Montecito will have to bake up a humble pie about as tall as a Californian redwood and then eat it. There's going to be a long, long road before the two brothers are on speaking terms, let alone friends again. But wasn't it great to see the King looking so well yesterday at the Royal Windsor Horse Show? He didn't used to go in the Queen's time. It was very much her thing. The show was established during the Second World War by Guards officers who were convalescing from war wounds at Windsor, and they started it mainly to amuse Princess Elizabeth, as she then was, and her sister, Princess Margaret. And they took part in that show, driving a pony and trap and so on. And over the years, it...
Oh, there we go. It stopped in mid-sentence. There you go. I tell you what, those were the days, though. He's probably still going. Those were the days when you sort of think, oh, we'll just put on a horse show to entertain the princesses.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Wish someone had put something on to entertain me.
I know. Well, I'm sat here. I entertain you.
You did. Well, you do.
Yes. The Queen used to love it, didn't she?
She did.
Oh.
She
and
did.
The King does now as well, I'm sure.
Oh, Ellie, there's a few geeks watching this morning, although it's just... Blooming at this computer.
You found your people.
I found my people. There's always some geeks watching.
Do you want me to load it? You're having technical problems.
Oh, God, Lord. I'm having technical problems. It's just reloaded and I've lost all... Someone's saying they had a very interesting Star Trek bit of memorabilia.
Oh, right. Well, I'm sure we can dig that one out for you.
Yes. Oh, on that... on the Wes Streeting thing, see, it's an interesting point. Pat says, I didn't realise Lord Bailey, Sean Bailey, who was a white supremacist. Of course, he ran for mayor last time round for the Tories, and in case you're not familiar with him, he's black. So it's why these comments, these sort of sweeping statements from Wes Streeting...
Anyone that votes Tory is...
Yes.
So
there you go. There you go.
But, yeah, do keep those views coming in. I'm just read some of these out. Wendy Pye-Smith says, Wes Streeting has shown his true colours. Nick says, Labour is the party of hypocrites.
Someone says, Ken says, why are you sticking up for Wes Streeting, Stephen? Not sticking up for Wes Streeting. I don't stick up for any politician. It's just about trying to provide a balance. You can't just lay into him and say, well, this is an awful thing that he's said. And you've got to balance it out and say, well, actually, he's an experienced politician. And, that's why he should know better than to do something which, frankly, was a bit daft. So there you go. So I don't stick up for any politician.
No. But Susan Hall's team, obviously the Tories in London, would say that it was very offensive to anyone that votes Tory. So do keep those views coming in. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Now, let's have a look at the weather for you with Aidan McGiven.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello A very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures, as they rise, could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud across central parts moves north into much of Scotland and continues to affect Northern Ireland and Northern England. Further south, some clear spells for a time, a few mist and fog patches developing by dawn, but thickening cloud arrives into the southwest corner and some outbreaks of rain for Cornwall. So we start off Sunday with best of the sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia and the southeast, and that window of fine weather gradually moves north into parts of Northern England, perhaps Northern Ireland by the afternoon. But for much of Scotland, other parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England will see a few showers, whilst some more persistent rain begins to edge into the far south. Warm in any sunny spells, highs into the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, in direct contrast to what Aidan McGibbon has just told us, we are told that summer is just around the corner.
Oh, it is.
Well, we like to believe, don't we? We like to hope. We want to make it sizzle for you, apparently, with an incredible £20,000 in cash up for grabs in the latest Great British Giveaway.
It's our biggest cash prize to date. It means you won't care if it's raining or not.
That's true.
Could all be yours. Here's how.
It's the biggest cash prize we've given away to date. An incredible £20,000 that you could use however you like. And because it's totally tax-free, every single penny will be in your bank account to do whatever you like with. £20,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours this summer. But you've got to be in it to win it. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you. Now, if you think you're going anywhere today, I wouldn't bother. Travel chaos right across the bank holiday weekend. How is it going to affect you? We'll tell you in a minute.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
So J. Cole, who is a rapper, says he felt terrible after releasing a song aimed at fellow rapper Kendrick Lamar and vowed to pull the track off streaming services. He said, "I ain't gonna lie to y'all. The past 2 days felt terrible," he told an audience at the Dreamville Festival in North Carolina. "I damn near had a relapse," he said.
There's a lot of young people, especially, you know, that would look at that and they will take it not just as entertainment.
It doesn't happen in any
other form of art that I can think of. This is not happening in country music, is it?
Well, it's the same. It's the same problem in both cases, isn't it? Who's doing the regulating? And surely it's each case on its merits, isn't it? You don't just ban a genre.
Why is there such a lot of hatred for a man who usually would have trash talked back? To stand up and say, you know, this doesn't sit well with me and I love this guy. If we look at, I think his name was Cody Fisher, the semi-professional footballer who died in a club because someone stabbed him. Now, he was stabbed because he stepped on someone's trainers. This is the level of ego we're seeing from a lot of young men who don't have any output of being able to channel that energy, and a lot of it is stemming from cultures like football, hip-hop, these sorts of things. So I'm just saying it's refreshing to see a man who could have easily wiped the floor with his lyrics say, I don't have to, you know?
That is interesting, isn't it? Because I took this interview in the wrong direction. It's not about pointing out the areas of concern. Actually, this story is saying, look, music and art can be giving you an example of how to live a slightly better life.
That's free speech. Saying, sorry. I'm sorry, I choose not to fight back because I love you. It may look like a wimpy thing to do, but it's still free speech.
You know what? I love you, Paul. Sorry about earlier.
Oh, welcome back to breakfast. Now,
We're expecting it.
Yes, now, rail passengers face days of disruption across the weekend as engineering works and industrial action get underway, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and it's not all, of course. Traffic jams, clogging up motorways, probably millions of drivers also facing bank holiday delays.
Well, earlier we spoke to travel journalist Simon Calder. It's like it's going to be a headache for anyone trying to get out and about this bank holiday weekend.
It certainly is. Shall we start on the railways? I happen to be at Munich Hauptbahnhof, the main station in southern Germany. Everything, you'll be glad to know, working very well indeed. But I'm afraid that's absolutely not the picture in significant parts of the UK. In particular, it's, as you say, Ellie, the engineering work, that is going to be causing problems, particularly on various parts of the West Coast Main Line. That's the one which connects London Euston with the West Midlands, Northwest England, southern Scotland. And you'll find that today, Coventry is pretty much cut off from the rest of the world. The line is interrupted between Birmingham International and Rugby. Tomorrow, it's going to get significantly worse because London Euston to Milton Keynes is going to be closed. There's also work going on in the Crewe area around Liverpool. And also, just on the other side of the country, Cambridge is having lots of work done. So wherever you're travelling, you need to find out how things are going. But yes, on Monday, the third summer of industrial action by train drivers belonging to the ASLEF union begins. We're going to see 6 days of an overtime ban. The way that the railways are organised means that there's going to be some quite substantial cancellations of trains. And then we're going to have 3 rolling strikes. Tuesday, it's mostly the London commuter services which are going to be hit. Wednesday, most intercity lines. And then Thursday, it's the north of England in the focus. TransPennine Express Northern won't be running any trains, and LNER will only have a skeleton service on its main route from Edinburgh via Newcastle and Yorkshire to London.
Simon Calder, you won't believe what's going on down here. Stand up. This is. You can have
Go on,
to,
Maria, it's your time to shine. Hello, Maria.
This is what happens in television. She's on her knees down here trying to sort out Ellie's kit.
Yeah. I don't have a zip on this dress, so it's been quite a... You just said it's not a very convenient dress to wear, Ellie. I just got telling off.
Yeah.
No, you didn't, darling. You do a great job. You do a great job, but thank you.
It's the pros that make all this so smooth.
Isn't she very good?
Anyway, look...
We've embarrassed her now.
I know, it's brilliant. Still to come, Gavin and Stacey are back. We'll tell you more in a minute.
Great.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Between 1955 and 1989, an average of 55 nuclear tests were conducted across the globe each year. More than 30,000 young British and Commonwealth servicemen served at British test locations in Australia and the Pacific Ocean. But in the years since, those who were involved say they've been ignored and lied to about their exposure to radiation. For decades, Lab Rats International has represented the millions across the world exposed to fallout from the testing programmes and the families who still suffer today from illness and deformities. Last year, the government unveiled the Nuclear Test Medal, recognising the military, civilian and overseas staff and personnel who participated in Britain's nuclear testing programme in the 1950s. But for Lab Rats founder Alan Owen, whose own father was a nuclear test veteran, the work is only just beginning. In September, they launched a legal challenge to the Ministry of Defence to provide the test veterans full medical records, which they say they've been denied access to.
We sit in this bubble as the nuclear test veteran community, fighting against the establishment. And they will say, you know, ministers will go in Parliament and say, all you've got to do is apply for your medical records and they'll give them to you. You know, it just doesn't happen. It's not a reality. They're not there to as easy, as accessible as just applying. They will fight you all the way. They will delay it.
In response, a government spokesperson said, "We are grateful to all service personnel who participated in the British nuclear testing programme, which is why we have formally recognised them with an official medal. Nuclear test veterans who believe they have suffered ill health due to service have the existing and long-standing right to apply for no-fault compensation under the War Pensions Scheme." The fight for these veterans and their families lives on, because thousands who came before never got the recognition and justice for their service.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people. To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast Now. Beloved sitcom Gavin and Stacey is making a comeback, but fans will have to wait until Christmas Day to find out how the comedy says a final farewell to its iconic characters.
I was trying to think of what's occurring?
What's occurring?
Is that a thing you see? I've been Googling.
Oh, very good. Oh, you've been doing research.
Yeah,
You've started your homework. Very
there
good.
You go. Anyway, earlier we spoke to showbiz reporter Hayley Palmer.
I can't believe, Stephen, that you have not seen Gavin and Stacey.
No.
We need to change that for you.
OK, we'll get on it.
Honestly, it's just one of those shows that you watch it and it just makes you feel really good. It's very relatable and they're national treasures. I'm so glad it's coming back. I don't usually like Christmas, but now it's coming back Christmas Day. I can't wait.
Oh, is that when it is? Christmas Day?
Oh, yeah.
So we've got a while to wait yet then.
Yeah, and I actually saw an interview with Larry Lamb on Loose Women and he said it's never coming back. But he lied to us because it is, and we're so excited. And there was so much great reaction on Instagram and Twitter yesterday. I just think it's brilliant. There they are, and I want to know. I mean, are Gavin and Stacey still together? What's happened since? Because there was a cliffhanger the last time we saw it, where Nessa proposed to Smithy, so we want to know if he said yes, and also what happened on the fishing trip is the big question.
Do you think we're going to get any of those answers, Hayley?
I think we are, because they know what the nation needs and what I need in my life. I need answers.
And they teased us, haven't they, with this image on Instagram, so that they held up the script, didn't they?
The finale, so this really is it?
This really is it now. But I just think it's brilliant. For me, it is just one of those shows that it just makes me laugh. I forget about everything when I watch it. And like I say, it's going to make our Christmas for 2024.
Oh, well, jolly good.
They know what the people want.
Yes, absolutely.
Shall we talk about Co-op Live Arena and all the problems
going on?
that have plagued it?
I know, it's really disappointing, isn't it? Because there's been so many shows cancelled. I don't actually know what is going on. I've tried to investigate it, and it just seems that there is technical issues. But I guess they have to put health and safety first, don't they, at these like massive arenas? However, I do think the fans come first, and it is really good that they've been able to find a different venue where they can actually still do the concerts, because, you know, these days ticket prices are super expensive, aren't they? We're talking like hundreds of pounds, and people travel and, you know, get hotels and stuff. So it is good that people can go to a different venue, but hopefully the issues would be resolved. But speaking of concerts, I don't know if you saw in the paper today, it's headline news, that there was a guy that was singing in a bar last night, and half an hour he had to stand in for Ollie Murs because Ollie Murs cancelled his flight was cancelled.
What? Are you joking?
Yeah, his name's Daniel Rooney, and he's one to watch. I mean, he must be a megastar now. I mean, his influence following must be huge. He had half an hour notice, but sometimes I think that might be the best thing.
Yeah, don't have to think about it.
Otherwise, you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do it. So yeah, Ollie Murs was supporting Take That. Ollie Murs has never missed a gig.
Supporting... Well, hold on. So this guy who was just playing in a bar then ends up supporting Take That.
Yes. And if I was him, I'd be like, I want to go back on tonight. I'd get a taste for it. I'd be like, right, this is it now.
Yeah.
But I really hope that it is one of those success stories where he goes on to bigger and better things.
That was Hayley Palmer speaking to us a little bit earlier on in the programme.
Now, still to come, May the 4th be with you. Andrew Reborn is here to celebrate Star Wars Day.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Men's mental health, men are starting to talk a lot more.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot of stuff that people don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, the last few years for me have been very, very difficult. People see me on tour, performing, making music, but myself and my wife, you know, we went through 2 miscarriages, you know, and, you know, for us, that was a very devastating time and very difficult to know how to kind of process those emotions. And I guess as a man, I did the thing of bottling up my emotions, and where I feel comfortable to be able to express myself is in the studio, whereas, you know, she had obviously a different reaction to, you know, what happened to us, because not only was it happening to her mentally, psychologically, but it was happening to her physically as well. And I think something that she really wanted to see from me was that sensitivity and that emotion. And I thought that as a man, being strong was trying to bottle up my emotions and just show her that, no, you know, that I'm being strong for her. But actually being strong is talking about it. And what's happened ever since I've started to talk about it is I've spoken to more men that have experienced baby loss. My wife forced out of me, you know, how do you feel? And I ended up as a mess on the floor. I was exasperating, crying, almost inconsolable. She was just holding me in her arms as we cried together, and we cried together. And I didn't realise I needed that release so badly. Like I said, I've been able to speak to other men, and we've been able to cry together, and they shared their own experiences, which they did similar to me. But actually, you know, as men, I feel like that conversation and that sensitivity and being able to be emotional together.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, for all you Star Wars fans out there, may the 4th be with you.
Well, lawyer and futurist Andrew Ebert, I don't know why we mentioned he's a lawyer, it's a bit irrelevant.
Hey.
Anyway, he's here to test us on our Star Wars knowledge in a Fake or Fact special. Hello!
Hello, and boy, we couldn't have missed this one, could we? May the 4th be with you. We love the pun every single year, Star Wars Day. And so what I've done, I've generated, there we go, look at this. Generated by AI. Andrew wants Fake or Fact Star Wars special. So we're going to start this off with perhaps the most famous quote from The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Does Darth Vader say, "Luke, I am your father"? Is that fake or fact?
It's fake.
That's a fact.
Ah, very good. Well, here's a little clip just to help you from Tommy Boy. Have a look at this clip.
Luke, I am your father.
Oh.
There you go. So, Luke, I am your father. That's from Tommy Boy, the thing. So you can change your mind if you want, but you say it's
fake.
You say it's fake. You say it's fact.
Fake.
Well, let's have a look at the real clip.
Knew the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No, I am your father.
It is the most misquoted thing in movie history. It's basically... He says, no, I am your father. So it doesn't say no. So it does mean there's 1 point to Stephen. Brilliant. Yes. Harrison Ford, then. Harrison Ford, the love affair that he had with Carrie Fisher's character, the brilliant Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher says in the 1980s Star Wars Episode 5...
Can I just say, by the way, watching these clips is just brilliant. I haven't watched them for ages. They're so good.
Can I just say to the production team who've been brilliant, because they're playing the clips, and I love they worked so hard to get the clips in. I researched them all week, and the production team have been fabulous today, so thank you very much indeed for that. So here we go. He praised everybody. Harrison Ford. He might, within the movie, he says to Carrie Fisher says, "I love you." And he says back to her, "I know."
Oh, this is just as he's put into the carbonite or whatever it is.
Exactly, well remembered. Did he improvise that line?
Yes, he did. He did.
OK, you're saying it's fact? Ellie?
I'm just going to go fake.
You're going to go fake? OK, well, let's have a look. Let's play the clip.
I love you.
I know.
There you go. So what happened? The line was originally going to be, "I love you too." He was, which most people would want to hear back. You say that I love you. You want to say I love you too. But what Harrison Ford said, he thought I want to be a badass right to the end, and therefore what's the one thing people don't want to hear when I say I love you? They want to hear, yeah, I know. You know. So that's what he said. I love this one. Okay.
That's a point to me. Then,
you're winning too. I don't want to rub it in. Poor Ellie. She did so well on Taylor Swift last time.
I know.
But I actually love Taylor Swift.
She will get this one, however. OK, in the movie, this is, again, legendary footage. Yeah. In the movie, a stormtrooper hits his head whilst coming into the room in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. He hits his head, and they kept it in the movie. Is that fake or fact?
Fact.
Oh, Ellie?
Yes, it is fact. Didn't he hit it on the Millennium Falcon or something?
Oh, look at him. He's just going for all OK.
Is that when he walked in, banged it into the spaceship, basically?
OK,
so something like that. Yes, I think it's true.
You're both going to... Well, let's have a look at the clip.
Take over.
Brilliant.
Isn't that brilliant? I tell you what, that was so fun. Just can we play that clip again? That is so good. Look at the stormtrooper on the right-hand side of the screen.
What
Now watch the one on the right-hand side as they come in. Have a look. Very easy.
Well, it's the fact that they added an ow in. They sort of put us, you know, someone voiced it.
What I loved is there were many actors who played stormtroopers. You don't really tell what it is, but in their IMDb credit, a number of them have claimed that they were the stormtrooper who hit their head, which was glorious. Talking of the Star Wars theme, you remember the good old President Trump? He came over here, and he met the late Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth. And during that, the people, did they play the Imperial March when Donald Trump came out? You know, the thing for the villains. Did they play when Donald Trump came out to meet Her Majesty the Queen? Is that fake or fact? Ellie?
Fake.
Fake. Stephen?
Fake. I'm sure it was dubbed on some Twitter thing or something,
but
it was...
let's have a look at the clip.
Is that real footage, or is that just been dubbed over?
Well, you tell me. Is that fake or fact? You can have a fake
I'm going
or
to say fake.
Oh, they're fake. They can't have possibly have done.
You're both absolutely right. It's true footage, but yes, they did dub over the Imperial March. Wonderful stuff. They actually played the Star Spangled Banner.
I was going to say. I mean, that would be.
It would be a bit.
That would be too. It would have been very, very fun.
A bit tough on Donald, wouldn't it? Yeah. OK, C3PO, which I think rather should be King Charles III on post offices, shouldn't it? What colour is he? I'll give you a clue. Is he all gold?
He's gold with a silver leg.
Gold with a silver... Ellie, what colour? Is that fake or fact? Is he all gold or is he gold with a silver leg? Fake or fact?
Fact.
Fact that he's all gold or he's got a silver leg?
He's got a silver leg.
He's got You're doing very well to follow things. Well, let's have a look. I've got a little picture here. Have a look. There we go. So just to help you make the one on the left-hand side of the screen is all gold, and the one on the right-hand side of the screen, as I'm looking at, has got a silver leg. Which one's right?
The one with the silver leg.
Silver leg, Ellie?
Yep, silver leg.
Congratulations, you are both right. He does have a silver leg. Glorious stuff. Right. Claim. Yoda, Grover, Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Cookie Monster and Bert were all voiced by the same actor. Same voice actor. Is that fake or fact?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
Fact.
No, it's fake. I'm going fake. I can imagine people saying that. Yeah. And it's sort of gaining momentum.
Yes.
But no.
It's got that little thing about
Miss Piggy sounds a little bit like Yoda.
No, Miss Piggy sounds a little bit like Yoda. You could have that, couldn't you?
I'm going...
You're going fake. Ellie's going fact. Well, I can tell you that Ellie is absolutely right. She's got it. It is. And you know, for a bonus point then, Ellie. Oh. For a bonus point, do you know who it might be? There's a picture of him there. It's a picture of him. It's him. It's him.
That's right. Him.
It is him. Do you know who it is?
No.
Frank Oz. Do you know who it is?
Frank Oz.
Oh, but it is Frank Oz. Brilliant. There we go. Almost an extra point.
Why do I know that name?
Well, because he's brilliant and he does all of those voices. So he does Bert, he does Cookie Monster, he did Yoda and that sort of stuff. So quite a brilliant character. Right, here we go then. Claim the 1999 Star Wars movie, The Phantom Menace. You remember that one well? It featured the first full CGI character in Jar Jar Binks.
Yes, that's true.
So, is that fake or fact?
True.
Fact.
I'll go with your confidence. Fact.
You're going fact as well. You can go to alternative if you prefer.
I feel like he's very confident, so I'm going to stick with it.
Well, I can tell you that you're absolutely wrong, both of you.
What?
Because the very first one... Let's have a look. First of all, this is Jar Jar Binks. There we are. Do you remember him?
Yeah,
that's what he looks like.
He was a failure. Nobody liked him.
Nobody liked him. That's a bit of a shame. He was a nice little character.
Liked him.
The actual very first one was all the way back in Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about within Star Wars.
Oh, no, the first CGI character. Looking, you can change your answer if you want.
No, I thought you were talking about the first CGI character in Star Wars.
Well, that would be fairly limiting, wouldn't it? But the first CGI character on the screen, and we've got a clip of the young Sherlock Holmes. Have a look at this. Wasn't that incredible? And that was Industrial Light and Magic in the 80s, but the first CGI character. And now AI is being used for more and more production of stuff and things like that.
Your question was badly framed.
Oh, fake or fact? It couldn't be easier.
I'm going for badly framed. It's interesting that when you look at that, I don't know how long ago that was.
Yeah.
Industrial Light and Magic, of course, is a Star Wars started company.
That's the theme, yes.
But isn't it interesting how it's not that good looking back on it?
Did you not? Well, I think that's right. No. I used to love... You remember those things like King Kong, who's really only tiny? in movies, or you remember all of those sort of earlier. Sinbad was amazing.
Well, I tell you what, watching. I remember going to the cinema to watch the first Jurassic Park, and we literally sat there with our mouths open.
Right.
That they could create this. It just looked so real. You look at it back now. It just looks so fake.
It is incredible.
And I can't understand how we perceive things differently.
Well, it was like Doctor Who. I used to hide behind the couch when the Cybermen or the Daleks used to come, and you look back on them, they're not quite as scary as they are now. But it's going to be amazing what happens with sort of technology and things like that, which is good.
We've come a long way.
We have come a long way. Speaking of coming a long way, there was a claim that actor Billy D. Williams, he pranked Mark Hamill about Princess Margaret, when he said, you mustn't look her in the eye, otherwise you'll get sent to the Tower of London. You mustn't look her in the eye, or you get sent to the Tower of London. And I think I've got a picture of it. Let's have a look at this picture here.
Well, that's you.
No, that's me. No, that's you. That's me. There we are. So this is it. He was told not to look her in the eye.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You think that's true?
I also say true.
You also say it's true? It is? Well, actually, the audience is out on it, because they're sort of saying it's not quite true. Mark himself tweeted that picture, and he said he was pranked by Billy D. Williams, who said you mustn't look her in the eye or you end up in the tower, because they worked on that sort of basis. I'll give you both the point. You both actually
we both need a point for that, yeah.
Have we got time for one more?
Yes, we have. Well, before we go to the last one, then, because we've got a bit of time, I want to ask you one. I can't remember the exact figures now.
Go on, then.
But there was something about the Millennium Falcon, and it did the something run.
Yes.
Someone will tell me. There's something in 2.4 parsecs.
Yes.
Right. Now, is that an accurate thing to say or not?
Do you know the answer to this?
Yes.
No, look at you. I'm going to say, look at you.
Is it accurate? Is it accurate or not?
I thought I was the one asking the question. Okay, I reckon it's not accurate. I reckon it's a fake.
Do you know why?
Am I right?
You're right.
Yes.
You'll know why.
Go on, then.
Well, you see, what they're saying is they do it in parsecs, which is like saying you've done it in 5 minutes.
Yes.
It's a time measurement.
Yes.
But parsec is a distance measurement.
There you go. You see, what I love about it, isn't this wonderfully educated? Andrew wants fake or fact. We educate everybody. What's your fake?
Oh, I don't have one. You can't put me on the spot.
You're
like
also
that.
real. I love it.
She's never seen Star Wars.
Well, never seen Star Wars. You've never seen Star Wars. We've got to rectify that. I'll tell you what, one last one.
I feel like I have seen it in this segment.
Isn't it good? Well, this will be inspiring for that. Princess Leia's hair. Let's do the final one then. Princess Leia's hair. The hair buns, you know, the famous thing on the side. They were inspired by the Mexican revolutionaries. Is that fake or fact? Fake or fact? Mexican revolutionaries, what do you reckon?
Fake!
I say fact, because she was a revolutionary.
Well, she was a revolutionary?
She was a rebel, wasn't she?
She was indeed a rebel.
So I'm going fact.
Well, I can tell you that Ellie is absolutely wrong.
Oh.
Because you should have gone with Stephen. And here is a picture evidence of it in a museum in Denver.
Look at that.
Have a look at that. Isn't that glorious? So this is the one, a museum in Denver, where they've got this exhibition. There's the revolutionary on the left, and you can see the hair buns. And actually, there's a bigger part of the exhibition. You can see at the bottom right-hand, there's actually things you can put them on. I think I should come along with them. Aren't they good? So to save you having to spend hours and hours and hours in the hairdressers, you could have just put the sides on. There you go. What do you reckon?
I think I'm impressed with that.
That's very interesting, actually.
I'm also quite impressed that the ammunition belt that she's wearing, the actual rebel, is very similar to Chewbacca's strap. It's got that whole sort of theme carries through.
No, it is incredible. No, we absolutely love that. Do we have time for one more?
Yes,
we do. Well, let's do the very last one.
No, we don't.
Oh, we don't. Well, I'll tell you what, then, overall, Ellie, you did really well. Out of 2, you came second, which was brilliant. So well done. But this week, Stephen is our Star Wars winner. Congratulations, Stephen.
Thank you very much
well done,
indeed.
Stephen.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben and Emma are here next with Saturday Morning Live.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest Met Office weather forecast. A very mixed weekend, varying from place to place and from day to day as far as the weather's concerned. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain around, but there'll also be some warm, sunny spells. The best of the sunshine this morning, southern parts of England, South Wales and the northwest of Scotland. A fresh start, but with the sunshine, temperatures soon rising. Those temperatures as they rise could set off a few sharp showers in the southeast as well as for northern Scotland, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover. Outbreaks of rain continuing for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, and feeling cool under that blanket of cloud, but warm in the sunny spells in the south and the northwest of Scotland. Eventually, through the evening, the cloud